Prime Minister Andrew Holness and Opposition Leader Mark Golding. Tune in to Nationwide 90 FM from 6 a.m. on Monday, May 26 for the findings from the latest Nationwide Blue Dot polls, powered by Total Tools.
Big news! The Big Bite Food Safety Show now airs on Nationwide 90 FM with your host, Alison Richards, the Food Safety Girl. Join Alison every Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. as she serves up expert advice, tips, and insights on everything food safety. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and remember, food safety is everybody's business. Don't miss a bite of the action. Tuesdays at 1 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Tune in for the salty truth on the next episode.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
Learn about smart betting strategies with AnyBet. Bet wisely, enjoy responsibly, and maximize your success. The temperature by AnyBet is
30 degrees Celsius in Kingston and also 30 degrees west out in Montego Bay.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robian Williams.
In Nationwide News at this hour, the Gender Minister says the Holness administration will review the law governing access to the country's sex offenders registry.
A large group of students and staff at UTech protested today following the killing of pharmacology student Anissa Dilworth.
And Anissa's father says what happened to his daughter should never happen to another Jamaican woman.
Justice to me is a mild word to what I really want to happen. What should happen to these, I would say, less than animals. It must resonate throughout history.
Murders are down by 42%.
King's Counsel Michael Hilton says Jamaicans should not view Friday's ruling on states of emergency as a political matter.
In news from the rest of the world, 350,000 Venezuelans now risk deportation from the U.S. following Supreme Court ruling.
Donald Trump says Russia and Ukraine are to immediately start ceasefire negotiations after he has a 2-hour call with Putin.
In headline sports, the Windies women win only warm-up game ahead of official start to England tour.
And later in our broadcast, in the cover story at 5:35, nurses across the island staged protests on Monday as they demand an end to violence against nurses specifically and more broadly women and girls in response to the physical assault of a nurse last week. NAJ President Dawn Marie Richards and the Principal Director for Gender Affairs in the Ministry of Gender, Sharon Robinson, will join us.
In Public Opinion at 6:26, we ask, do you feel safe as a woman in Jamaica? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio. You can also message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. Feel free to leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90 FM.
At 7, Prime Minister Kamla Persad Besessa says she's responsible for the Defense Minister's decision to restrict Vibes Cartel's interaction with school children in the Twin Island Republic. Senior reporter at Trinidad Guardian, Jensen Lavende, will join us. All these and more as we take you home on air, on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, Nationwide Radio, JM.com, and on the Nationwide app. Available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Monday afternoon, it's Monday, May 19, 2025.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now to the details. The Holness administration will review the law governing access to the country's sex offenders registry. That's the word from Gender Minister Olivia Babsy Grange. Minister Grange made the announcement on Monday as she joined scores of Jamaicans who took to the streets of the corporate area protesting violence against women and girls.
We're going to look into the act that governs the sex offenders. I remember when we were debating in Parliament about the legislation. There were those advocates who said that we must protect the rights of the offenders, although they are offenders. And therefore the registry was not made public, but the information can be accessed. But the ordinary woman and the little girl and the family do not understand the bureaucracy. They do not understand how to access these things. And so we have to make the information more available.
Scores of nurses, other medical professionals, and advocacy groups and university students turned out on Monday to join the protest. The protesters first gathered at the University Hospital of the West Indies, where a nurse who was recently brutally assaulted is employed. The groups then met up on East Street in the vicinity of Hero Circle, where they marched and chanted for justice.
We want justice! We want justice! We want justice! We want justice!
Minister Grange has called for an end to violence against women and girls.
Today, I stand here with the Minister of Health. Today, I stand here with the Minister of State and the Ministry of National Security. Today I stand here with representatives from the opposition. And I'm saying to you, it's not about politics. And no one must exploit the hardship that has women were going through and the violence that they are facing. We must get one. And today we are here to show our support for the nurses and to show our support for women who are being abused and for girls who are being abused and who are being raped and who are being killed.
Olivia Babsy Grange, the Minister of Gender.
Meanwhile, colleagues of the nurse who was attacked say they are standing in the gap for her.
She is my colleague, personally. Okay. I have spoken to her, but I can't say just because the nurse is not well. She's not well. Right. And you can imagine if after going through an ordeal like that, you would not be okay either. Right? So she's not okay. So we are not okay. And because she's not able to represent for herself out here today, we as a uniform body standing strong to let her know that nurse, we have your back and we stand supporting with you, baby. And we're against this cause.
They say violence against women and children is unacceptable.
Important to be a part of this protest because as nurses, a nurse doesn't go as a singular. It's a plural, it's a body, right? What affects one affects all of us. And the fact that a nurse could be brutally attacked like that on her way to work, it affects us. When we got word, everybody was broken at the hospital because when we're out here coming to the hospital to give up care, you could see us and think that it was okay in our uniform to attack her like that. No, we don't stand for that, and we stand in solidarity to say we are against abuse among children, females, and overall abuse. It is not acceptable. We are not accepting it. So today when we march and we put our voices together and we stand violence against women and children, it's a no.
Colleagues of the nurse who was attacked.
And Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says he's in close dialogue with the family of the nurse who was attacked.
I have been following the case, starting with a discussion with her husband shortly after the incident took place. Had a long talk with him and reassured him, having had discussions with the clinical team at the UHWI, that Nurse Facey, who was a worker at the UHWI, would get the best possible care, and she has been. It's a very traumatic experience. She not only needs clinical support, but she needs psychological support, and that is ongoing. So I'm in touch with the family through her husband.
Meanwhile, opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes, says violence against women in 2025 is intolerable.
It is with disbelief that we have to make this speech in 2025. It cannot, however, match the disbelief when I saw the video of the brutal attack on Nurse Facey. I still cannot believe that in 2025 we have to stand here protesting against violence against women. We are supposed to be a civilized society. A civilized society is one that looks out for its most vulnerable. And it is unfortunate that our women today are still subjected to violence of this sort of nature.
Dr. Alfred Dawes.
Stop the violence. Stop it now. That's the call from a large group of students and staff at the University of Technology UTech for an end to violence against women. The crowd staged a peace march on Monday, walking through communities surrounding UTech's Papine campus. Shalois Michael reports.
Monday's protest at UTech follows the recent discovery of skeletal remains believed to be that of 20-year-old UTech student Anissa Dilworth. Chants for violence against women to end echoed through the streets of Papine.
Stop the violence, stop it now! Stop the violence, stop it now! Stop the violence, stop it now! Stop the violence, stop it now!
On May 7, Anissa was reported missing by her father, Everton Dilworth. However, hopes for her safe return were dashed on Saturday after skeletal remains believed to be Anissa's were discovered in Fort Clarence, St. Catherine. The discovery has plunged the UTech school community into mourning. UTech President Dr. Kevin Brown expressed grief after news emerged of the skeletal remains.
Not only have we lost a student, but we've lost her under very tragic circumstances. And since I got the news, my heart has been broken. In fact, I didn't imagine I would have felt such personal pain. But I think for all of us here who are parents, and I have a little daughter, we understand how the father must feel, and he's here, Mr. Dilworth, with us today as we try to support him during this very difficult time.
Principal of the University of the West Indies, Mona, Professor Denzel Williams, also joined the protest.
End the violence against our people now. End the violence against women. End the violence against kids. End the violence against the elderly. Simply put, end the violence now. We are tired of it in Jamaica and we must do something about it. We should not allow Miss Dilworth's life to go in vain. This should be a rallying cry for all of us to start stepping back and look at it and reflect and say, how can I assist our country to be a better place over the foreseeable future?
And a UTech student ambassador who participated in the march called on men to play their part in protecting the nation's women.
It is still hard to grasp the fact that Anissa is gone. And as men, we have to stand up. We have to stand up as men. One thing I always ensure I do whenever we are having tutoring sessions and any of the female students are leaving in the night, I let them screenshot the information and send it to me. I let them tell me when they are home. So men, in every capacity, we have to look out for our women, for our girls, because we all have a mother. So we have to stand up because Anissa's death will not be in vain.
Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, Anissa's father says he knew something was wrong when repeated calls to his daughter's phone went unanswered. Everton Dilworth says he and his daughter would communicate at least 3 times daily.
I expect a call at 6 a.m. in the morning, or I normally call her that time to find out her preparation for the day, subjects, whatever it is, her plans for the day. In the evening, say between 6 and 8 thereabout, we'll also, communicate, find out how was the day and what we should be doing for the night. Yeah. Sometime in the middle of the night, I will probably send her a text between 12 and 2 a.m. just to find out if she's still up, if she's studying, whatever,
Yes.
So we communicate a lot, and that's how I could spring into action to know that something was amiss.
Mr. Dilworth says Anissa was his youngest child and his only daughter. He expressed heartbreak and outrage at the situation, saying what happened to his child should never happen to another Jamaican.
At the end of the day, I want a thorough investigation.
Yes.
To uncover all the happenings, the guilty person. I mean, justice is to me is a mild word to what I really want to happen. So for me personally, what should happen to these, I would say, less than animals, right? It must resonate throughout history. It must resonate. This must stop, and not because of my child, but any other child or person, human being.
Everton Dilworth there, Anissa's father. He was speaking to Cliff Hughes today.
Murders are now down by 42%. The latest crime data from the Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF says up to May 17 this year, 257 homicides had been committed. That's 182 fewer than the 439 murders recorded in the corresponding period last year. St. Andrews South continues to be a hotspot, leading the country's murder tally with 35. St. Catherine South is second with 24 murders. Two divisions have seen an increase in homicides. They are St. Mary and Portland. Meanwhile, shootings have declined by 32%, coming in at 281 up to May 17. Rapes are also down by 45%, while robberies declined by 8%. However, the JCF says break-ins have increased by 16%, coming in at 414.
You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5. We'll have more after these.
Celebrate 26 years with IQ Optical. Enjoy 26% off your prescription eyewear and sunglasses this month only. Book your appointment or take your prescription to IQ Optical in New Kingston, Manor Park, or Drexel. Conditions apply. The time by IQ Optical is...
It's 15 minutes after 5.
Rentokil Initial offers air purification solutions with triple filtration and unique auto-sensing capabilities that neutralizes malodor and replaces it with clean air. Call Rentokil Initial at 926-4236 for more details.
The temperature by Rentokil is
30 degrees Celsius in Kingston and Montego Bay.
It's $1 million summer with Mitsubishi. And if I reach, we go, we have to reach it. Triton, cross it to safe and easy. Expander, link up Pochi weekend. It's $1 million summer with Mitsubishi L200 with space and seating comfortable. It's a Mitsubishi, hey, it's a Mitsubishi. It's $1 million off, them tree ride. Features nice with the leather inside. Cool AC, everybody feel right. It's $1 million summer, $1 million summer.
Conditions apply.
Continuing the news. The trial of murder accused Constable Noel Maitland was postponed on Monday in the Supreme Court following the absence of a juror. When the matter was called up, the court was informed that a member of the 7-member jury was ill. The proceedings were adjourned and are expected to resume on Tuesday at 10. Maitland is on trial for the 2022 murder of his girlfriend, 24-year-old Donnelly Donaldson. She was last seen at his apartment on July 12 that year. Her body has never been found, but police believe she was killed that same night. Maitland is also charged with preventing the lawful burial of a corpse. On Monday, defense attorney Christopher Townsend was set to begin cross-examination of the Crown's second witness, a close friend of Miss Donaldson. The first witness to the stand was Donaldson's mother, Sophia Lugg. The Crown has a list of over 30 witnesses to call to make its case. The trial is expected to last for 6 to 8 weeks.
King's Counsel Michael Hilton is encouraging Jamaicans not to view Friday's ruling finding recent declarations of states of emergency unconstitutional as a political matter. He was reacting to the landmark ruling finding 24 states of emergency declared between 2018 and 2023 unlawful. Hilton says the ruling is for all Jamaicans.
This is much bigger than states of emergency, and it's a statement by the court as to access to justice, access to the court, importance of the Constitution. I think that people could see this, ought to see this, as something that's bigger than politics. That's for the good of everybody.
Hilton represented PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell in the legal challenge. The party had insisted the declarations were unconstitutional and a violation of the rights of certain classes of Jamaicans. The government has countered that the declarations were needed to contain high levels of violent crimes in select areas. The Holness administration plans to appeal the ruling. Hilton says he's hopeful the ruling will encourage more Jamaicans to seek redress for breaches of their constitutional rights.
It should. If you compare in the Jamaican courts, let's say Trinidad, where citizens are much more active in challenging official action, and not just official action either, action by unconstitutional action by other citizens. We could take a leaf out of their book and being more active in defense of our rights.
Michael Hilton, King's Counsel.
Meanwhile, Legal Affairs Minister Marlene Malahoo Fort says she's concerned about how judges treat evidence provided by the security forces about the crime situation across the country.
I'm a little concerned about the judiciary trying to substitute its own views on what exists on the ground. I know that the court must assess the evidence that is before it, and it must apply the law to it. But I have to say, on a reading, I just have a number of question marks.
Justices Andrea Pettigrew Collins, Bertram Morrison, and Simone Wolfe Rees concluded last Friday that the high crime rates recorded in the country between 2018 and 2023 did not constitute an emergency within the meaning of the Constitution. They came to that conclusion despite assertions to the contrary in sworn evidence by Deputy Commissioner of Police Clifford Blake.
Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck is urging Jamaicans to set down a will to avoid disputes between family members. Speaking at a justice fair for the disabled last Friday, he says Jamaicans should seek to create a will as early as 21.
Those of your age 21, make sure you make a will, because it becomes much easier for your family to access whatever you should leave behind, and you don't know what you're going to leave behind, because you may die in an accident and your representative may well sue the offender in the accident for many millions of dollars, which the family will be entitled to. But if you have a will, then it becomes much easier to sue the offender.
Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
The U.S. Supreme Court says it will allow the Trump administration to terminate deportation protections for some 350,000 Venezuelans in the country. Monday's ruling lifts a hold that was placed by a California judge that kept temporary protected status in place for Venezuelans whose status would have expired last month. Temporary protected status allows people to live and work in the United States legally if their home countries are deemed unsafe due to things like wars, natural disasters, or other extraordinary and temporary conditions. The ruling marks a win for U.S. President Donald Trump, who has repeatedly tried to use the Supreme Court to enact immigration policy decisions. The justices provided no rationale for their decision. But one of the attorneys for a Venezuelan migrant says the High Court's order appears to be the single largest action in modern American history, stripping any group of non-citizens of immigration status.
U.S. President Donald Trump says Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiating towards a ceasefire. Trump made the declaration following a 2-hour phone call on Monday with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin. Trump, who described the conversation as having gone very well, also said conditions for peace would need to be negotiated between the two countries. Putin said he was ready to work with Ukraine on a memorandum on a possible future peace agreement. However, he did not address demands from the U.S. and European countries for an unconditional 30-day ceasefire. Trump also spoke with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who urged the U.S. not to distance itself from talks. After his one-on-one call with Trump, Zelensky reaffirmed Ukraine's desire for a full and unconditional ceasefire. But he warned that if Moscow is not ready, there must be stronger sanctions.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, the Gender Minister says the Holness administration will review the law governing access to the country's sex offenders registry.
A large group of students and staff at UTech protested today following the killing of pharmacology student Anissa Dilworth.
And Anissa's father says what happened to his daughter should never happen to another Jamaican woman.
Murders are now down by 42%.
I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Roby Ann Williams.
Listeners, you can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app. It's available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
It's only 5 days. 5 days of drive-away deals with ultra-low prices on a new Mazda. Up to $2 million off or top-of-the-line Mazda. Enjoy the super comfortable CX-30 or CX-60. Step up to the new family 3-row Mazda CX-90. Level up to executive motors now and steer into incredible savings. Up to $2 million off. Don't miss out. 5 days only. Visit us now at 8 Moresco Road, Kingston, or call 92-MAZDA. Find us online at MazdaJA.com. Conditions apply.
Tired of waiting for your ride? Want safety and peace of mind on every journey? Amber On Time is here! With verified drivers, real-time vehicle tracking, and panic button with armed security response, your safety is our priority. Reliable service, easy booking, premium experience, it's all just a tap away. Download Amber On Time today!
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Jamaica's Javel Glenn, Marquino Mindley, and O'Shane Thomas have been named to the West Indies A squad for 3 50-over games against South Africa A in St. Lucia, May 21 to 27. The teams will also meet in 2 test matches from June 1 to 11. Alec Athanaze will lead the 50-over squad, while for the 2 test matches, Tevin Imlach will captain one of the games and Jomel Warwick on the other in an effort to give both valuable leadership experience. The other members of the squad are Kadeem Alain, Kevlin Anderson, Jedi Blades, Daryl Cyrus, Jide Gooley, Shakir Paris, Carrie Pear, Kamal Savory, Gilson Tyson, and Kevin Wickham. Andre Coley, Jamaica's Andre Coley, has been appointed head coach for the series. The selected players have delivered strong performances across regional formats and will now have the chance to test their skills against tougher opposition. The West Indies A versus South Africa A series also builds anticipation for the exciting Fuller Energy West Indies home series, which begins on June 11 at the 3Ws Oval in Barbados, where the West Indies women will take on South Africa. That game will serve as a curtain raiser to a thrilling summer of international cricket across the region. And the West Indies women registered a dominant 80-run win over the England and Wales Development 11 at the Spitfire Ground in Canterbury on Sunday in a warm-up ahead of the start of their 6-match White Ball Tour of England. Kiana Joseph blasted a boundary-studded half-century, hitting 10 fours and 2 sixes in her knock of 62 from 35 balls as the Caribbean women posted 175 for 4 in their 20 overs. Captain Haley Matthews and Aliyah Alain chipped in with 20 apiece, while Janilla Glasgow finished unbeaten on 18 of just 6 balls against Phoebe Brett, 2 for 35. The Development 11 were then restricted to 95 for 7 in their 20 overs. They lost 6 wickets for 25 runs at one stage. Charlotte Stubbs, 35, made most runs, as Karishma Ramharak bagged 2 for 11 and Afi Fletcher 2 for 18. The West Indies will face England on Wednesday in the first of their 3-match T20 international series. The teams will also play 3 50-over games. The Jamaica Football Federation named a 21-member senior women's squad for the international friendly against the USA on June 3 as part of their preparation for the World Cup qualifiers. The Reggae Girls suffered a 3-0 loss to France and then back-to-back defeat against Mexico, 4-0 and 3-0, all in the month of April. Coach Hubert Busby says while the trend may be worrying, they're making progress ahead of the World Cup qualifiers.
When we looked at a couple of things and some different players into different positions, and we'd had conversations about players and looking to try things, which what these games are about. We have our strengths, we have our deficiencies, but we have to be able to utilize these games. I know everyone wants to win every single match. That's what we're here for, the senior women's national team. But really, these games are for us to be able to experiment and try things. We can't do them in World Cup qualifiers, right? So we have to be able to have this full picture of what it is. There's all these little puzzle pieces that we have to be able to, little jigsaw pieces that we have to be able to put together that allows for us to see this finished product.
Coach of the national women's team, Hubert Busby, star player Khadija Bunny Shaw, and a few others are going to be missing the game. However, Busby says this gives other players the opportunity to show the coaching staff that they deserve to be permanent fixtures in the squad. And finally, in sports at this time, Brighton and Hove Albion consolidated their 10th place, and in fact, their place in the top 10 of the English Premier League after coming from behind at home to beat champions-elect Liverpool 3-2 on Monday. Liverpool jumped into a 2-1 half-time lead with goals from Harvey Elliott and Dominic Slobosai, but Brighton stormed back with goals from Karu Mitoma and Jack Hinselshaw.
Cushion ball into Conor Bradley, who's got through Adingra, and Bradley can pull it back, and Harvey Elliott puts Liverpool in front. Gruder beautifully over the top of the Liverpool defence and into the net from Yasin Ayari. It's a lovely goal. Touch from Szoboszlai for Elliott, back to the Hungarian. Whoa, what a finish that is! Dominic Szoboszlai puts Liverpool back in front. Danny Welbeck, Alisson there again, Mitoma, 2-2. O'Reilly, fist across and in.
Brighton now have 58 points with one game to go in the season and ensure they'll finish in the top 10. Our sports are going to be back with more at 6:05.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Make a toast to your future. The JTA Cooperative Credit Union is by your side. All educators, the best is what you deserve.
We'll keep your dreams alive.
Competitive loans to help you grow.
We'll take you higher.
Great returns on your savings. A bright future is in the making.
Build the best you with the best credit union. We are committed to serving you.
The JTA Cooperative Credit Union, serving our members, impacting lives positively.
In Jamaica, your rights are protected by our Constitution. From the right to education to freedom of expression, every citizen deserves respect and dignity. But remember, with rights come responsibilities. Let's uplift and respect each other and stand against injustice. Together, we can make Jamaica a better place for ourselves and future generations. Know your rights. Embrace your responsibilities. This message was brought to you by the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs.
Accelerate your career with the right ally. Mona School of Business and Management. Explore our suite of highly ranked, specialized, globally competitive graduate degrees, including our internationally accredited MBA program. At MSBM, we nurture critical thinkers and innovative leaders, placing our graduates in a league of their own. Join the community of trailblazers making an impact at home and abroad. Apply online today. Global knowledge, regional solutions.
It's only 5 days. 5 days of drive-away deals with ultra-low prices on a new Mazda. Up to $2 million off or top-of-the-line Mazda. Enjoy the super comfortable CX-30 or CX-60. Step up to the new family 3-row Mazda CX-90. Level up to executive motors now and steer into incredible savings. Up to $2 million off. Don't miss out. 5 days only. Visit us now at 8 Moresco Road, Kingston, or call 92-MAZDA. Find us online at MazdaJA.com. Conditions apply.
Want to reduce your high electricity bills? Then Peak Energy has the solution for you. From grid-tied to hybrid solar inverters with full lithium-ion battery pack. Installation and maintenance packages available. Visit us at Shop 1, 3 Mosquito Valley Road, Red Hill, St. Andrew. Call 876-279-8820 or 944-0668. Or email us at peakenergysolutionsja@gmail.com. Peak Energy for everything solar.
Delicious meals, poolside cocktails,
right on the beach. Disconnect from your daily worries and reconnect with the one you love. There's no paradise like home. This summer, enjoy a romantic all-inclusive escape at Couples Tower Isle, Couples Sanssouci, Couples Negril, or Couples Swept Away from $295 USD per night. Take advantage of this offer today by visiting Couples Resorts at couples.com. Conditions apply.
Tune in to Cliff Hughes Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast from the Ministry of Agriculture's Investment Forum, Thursday, May 29th, 2025, at the Jamaica Conference Center. The Investment Forum is one of the many events during National Minerals Week 2025. The Investment Forum, with keynote speaker Honorable Floyd Green, focuses on investment incentives and sustainability. We will broadcast live from the event, giving listeners island-wide front row access to Jamaica's mineral future. Don't miss us as we unearth the possibilities. So tune in to Cliff Hughes Online, Thursday, May 29th. It's the Ministry of Agriculture's Investment Forum at the Jamaica Conference Center. Catch the live stream on our YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live too. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining.
Big news! The Big Bite Food Safety Show now airs on Nationwide 90 FM with your host, Alison Richards, the Food Safety Girl. Join Alison every Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. as she serves up expert advice, tips, and insights on everything food safety. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and remember, food safety is everybody's business. Don't miss a bite of the action. Tuesdays at 1 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Tune in for the salty truth on the next episode.
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Multilink, access every time, everywhere I go. Multilink, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use Multilink. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multilink logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multilink, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multilink?
Your feet off our head. Take your feet off our head. Take your feet off our head. Take your feet.
Sounds there from the streets of the corporate area where two separate protests happened today. The message was united: end violence against women. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Cover Story. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Siobhan Campbell.
How are you doing, Siobhan?
Doing quite well.
Good. So, nurses across the island staged protests today as they demanded an end to violence against nurses specifically, and of course more broadly women and girls. The move is in response to the brutal physical assault of a nurse by a man in Mount Friendship, St. Andrew last Tuesday. In the corporate area, activities kicked off at the University Hospital of the West Indies. Scores of nurses converged at the entrance to the hospital waving placards, donning United Nations designated orange ribbons and chanting. The UN marks the 25th of each month as International Orange Day.
It's a global initiative to raise awareness and inspire action to end violence against women and girls. The color orange symbolizes a brighter, violence-free future. And although the 25th of May is several days away, organizers brought forward the activities in light of the assault on the nurse and the recent killing of women and children.
In the meantime, the Gender Minister, Olivia Grange, is saying that among the measures the government will be looking at to curb violence against women and girls is to review the legislation that governs access to the sex offenders registry. Now, a number of groups' listeners have renewed the call for that registry to be made public, of course, following young Kelsey's rape and murder. Here's the Gender Minister.
We're going to look into the act that governs the sex offenders. I remember when we were debating in Parliament about the legislation. There were those advocates who said that we must protect the rights of the offenders, although they are offenders. And therefore the registry was not made public, but the information can be accessed. But the ordinary woman and the little girl and the family do not understand the bureaucracy. They do not understand how to access these things. And so we have to make the information more available.
That's Olivia Babs-Grange, the Gender Minister. Well, joining us to discuss this further is the President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Dawn Marie Richards, and the Principal Director of Gender Affairs at the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Sharon Robinson. Good afternoon, ladies.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Starting with you, Madam Richards, end violence against nurses. Do you find that the profession is plagued generally by violent attacks against the country's nurses?
I wouldn't say generally, but I would say occasionally.
Please, go ahead. Can you describe some of the instances where nurses face potential violence or abuse?
And a lot of that is faced at the actual workplace side. So we have challenges sometimes. Persons come in, they have their own anxieties and their own fears. Sometimes those are generated against the nurse who they see. That's the person that the anger is displaced on. So occasionally we do have issues where the safety of our nurses becomes questionable.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say, Ms. Richards, is the view, or the feeling rather, among the nursing fraternity this afternoon?
At this time, the nurses are quite disturbed based on the circulating video that showed the physical abuse by a member of the public to the nurse. For most of us, we cannot fathom why any human being would do that to another human being.
Mm-hmm. And have you been able to speak to the nurse in question?
Not at this time. I have not spoken to nurse personally.
Yeah.
But I am in dialogue with persons who have been able to speak to her. At this time, it would not be fair for everybody to be calling and asking the same questions,
right,
having her repeat a scenario which to her
traumatic
is really traumatic.
Yes, I understand.
Really traumatic. Because my feedback is that even though it happened to her, seeing the video gave her a different light, and it really shut her down when she saw the video, even though she was the person in the video.
Yes, I can understand.
And to bring you in, Sharon Robinson, this incident, which involved the nurse, is just another incident in recent time where a woman has been assaulted, or a child of someone in a vulnerable group has been assaulted or killed. And when these types of things happen, I've heard the discussion before about opening the sex offenders registry to public scrutiny to allow others to essentially defend themselves if they have a potential sexual offender in their midst. But it seems to always end there. We never quite make it to that step where we push it forward. Do you believe the momentum is there now for us to actually get to that final step?
Thank you for that. I believe in terms of that sexual offender registry that was set up in 2014, the idea of it was to make sure that once the person was named or is named as an offender, then there is a record that is kept. And that record, ideally, is to ensure that the person perhaps would be facing potential danger would have access to that information, and to stave off any further attacks, and to ensure that that person or persons who are so listed would be going through a process for reform and rehabilitation. The idea is to ensure that those offenders do not continue to offend, and that persons who have not yet been who are not yet offended by the perpetrators, or not victims, for example, would not become victims. The idea is to reduce the incidences. So the idea of having it been public was not a consideration. That's something under the Sexual Offences Act. And that was under the review that took place when there were 4 pieces of legislation, and those 4 pieces of legislation were looked at because it was felt that there was a concern about how it is that the legislative reform should have taken place, and how it is that we would need to improve the protection around vulnerable persons, including women, boys, men, and girls.
We're up on the break, but I would like to come back with you, Sharon, and just to talk about how opening that registry to the public would look, or to some degree, because clearly it's not going to just be a wholesale, you can access it at any point in time, but we'll come back to that after the break.
Birdshot fried chicken always ready. Birdshot, original crispy. Birdshot, Cajun spicy. Birdshot, a barbecue. Birdshot, we are going Birdshot.
The temperature brought to you by Bird Shack Fried Chicken in Kingston, Montego Bay, and Ochivios is...
It's 30 degrees Celsius here in the capital city, Kingston, and 29 out west in Montego Bay.
This Labor Day, Sherwin-Williams Jamaica is helping you prep like a pro. Get 30% off all road marking paints and 15% off painting accessories. Whether you're painting curbs, crossings, or schoolyards, we've got you covered. Hurry in. The sale runs from May 16 to 22, 2025, only at Sherwin-Williams Jamaica.
You're a VIP with CIBC Caribbean. Spend US $100 or local equivalent with your CIBC Visa credit card for your chance to win a crop over VIP experience in Barbados. An all-expense paid trip for 2, staying at the Courtyard by Marriott Hotel, cultural tours, and Aura experience with full glam makeup, plus tickets to the hottest last lap events. Visit CIBC Caribbean /crop over 2025 for more info. Conditions apply.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jackama figure dig the wall. Our Total Tools. Beat waka figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand. Total Tools. We rent them, sell them, and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Sly Road, Kingston.
And lot C6 Jackson, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
The environment takes center stage this Labor Day, Friday, May 23, under the theme, The Environment, Our Land, Our Duty, Our Future. Play your part in preserving our environment. Put some voluntary labor into Labor Day in your community, anywhere across Jamaica. Jamaica Nice. Protect with paradise.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. It is Monday, and there were protests across the island today staged in demanding an end to violence against nurses specifically, and more broadly, women and girls. And something stemming from that is another discussion about opening the sex offenders registry to the public. We have with us President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Dawn Marie Richards, and Principal Director of Gender Affairs at the Ministry of Culture and Gender, Sharon Robinson. So as I said, Madam Robinson, I wanted to talk about this matter of opening the sex offenders registry to the public. There's obviously the concern about the rights of the offender versus the rights of the victims and potential victims. How do we then find that happy medium balance in the middle where it can be generally expected that the registry has a more easier access to those who need access to it to protect vulnerable groups versus maintaining a certain level of privacy for the offender?
Wow, the idea of just ensuring that the risk, because I think in everything that we do, we have to consider the risk. I remember a conversation recently that persons were talking about the same idea of whether or not we should make the information in the sex offender registry public. And I recall that there was a conversation around how do we balance the idea of do we expose all persons so there's a risk of discrimination, that's one idea, or do we just open it, make it wide so all persons are privy to. Now, when the sexual offense legislation was looked at. In the report, which I have, it recommended that for persons up to the age of 19 years, the option would be child diversion. So, for example, a young person up to 19 who would have committed an offense, instead of placing the name in the sex offenders registry, at that point, it would be to put the child through child diversion program, which allowed for counseling, probation, or other available remedies. The idea is that at that age, sometimes it's youthful exuberance, and sometimes the influence from other parents and so on, older persons and persons of the same age, social media and the 9 yards. And so the idea would have this thought about making sure that they are a part of. And the committee recommended that where the sex offender registry is concerned, provision should be made so that persons who are in the child diversion scheme should not be included, meaning the information should not be public. Then there is a thought of, if I'm a child and my mother is in a community, I'm at risk if I don't know who is in the registry.
Yes.
So then the question is, how do I balance that delicate balance to make sure that the names are not revealed and there's huge discrimination, and sometimes people can be reformed at some point in life. Sometimes it could be influence. Sometimes it could be a number of factors. The idea is, how do we balance it? Because for parents, if I'm a parent, I would want to know. But at the same time, how does it criminalize or cause discrimination? Stigma discrimination against a person. So it's a delicate balance, I think, just maintaining that protection against discrimination and making sure that persons who need the information have access to it.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Richards, I want to take you back to something you said earlier about some of the challenges your members face at work on the job. Do you get the sense from your members that, generally speaking, they feel safe at work?
Generally, yes. Depending on the area that you're in, but overall, sometimes the sense of security comes from advocacy and togetherness within a unit or within a facility, not necessarily because security is provided. Or sometimes security is provided and incidents take place and there's no assistance from that angle. But sometimes when working together, nurses are encouraged to be vigilant and pay attention to their surroundings. So sometimes we try our best. If you see a situation and you can mitigate, you mitigate for your own safety.
And what do you want to see this happen now in terms of protection, security of nurses? What are some of the things you'd like to see as an association?
As an association, we would like for persons to have respect for each other. Because if we are respecting each other, some of the things we do, we wouldn't do it. Because when you look at it, if unless you have the police or the security or whoever in the space at the time when an incident is going to take place, you don't really have any security. And in asking for assistance, this is what is going to be given to us. So we are having challenges in A&E with the persons who are coming in from the road. And you go to your CEO or you go to your parish manager, what is going to happen? They are going to say, all right, let us look at employing more security. But what is happening? The persons who are bringing the violence to you or introducing the violence to you, they are not afraid of the security. They don't care about the security. They bring the violence to the security as well. So we don't really see that as a lot in terms of providing that safe space for us. What we want is to have spaces that are safe for us. Overcrowding in a facility reduces that. So it heightens the risk of you being prone to security issues when your space is overcrowded. And in today's world, in today's Jamaica, everywhere is overcrowded. So we are asking, organize the spaces for us. Get the spaces organized. Right across the board, we need more spaces in all our healthcare facilities. Because we have facilities that are open 70 years, 90 years ago, 200 years ago, and some of them are maintaining the same spaces.
In terms of quarters for the nurses?
Not necessarily quarters. I'm talking about working space.
Okay.
Because the quarters for nurses is not really available anymore like that.
Yes, okay.
Spaces that used to be spaces for nurses are now staff spaces.
Oh.
So it's not only nurses who are being housed in these spaces.
It's general
Spaces
staff.
It's the general staff.
I understand.
Right? And you know, when persons start their career and start to build relationships outside and to have their children and so on, persons are not going to stay in these facilities. They are going to move out and seek their own homes. So if you still, even if you provide staff spaces on the compound, that will not totally eliminate the challenge that a nurse will face when traveling in a high-risk area or traveling at high-risk times,
yes,
which we call our night shift.
Yes.
We would call that high-risk time.
Ms. Robinson, I want to pick up on something Ms. Richards said a while ago about respect, generally, that people should just generally respect each other. When we talk about gender-based violence, a lot of times when I just, scroll social media, there's always some comments that say, why don't we focus on violence generally? Yeah, that we shouldn't talk about quote-unquote gender-based violence alone, but violence generally because, we live in a violent society. How do you counter that message to say that it's important to specifically deal with gender-based violence?
So thank you for that. And it depends on how it is that it is perceived. Because we do have an operational guideline that we work with in the ministry. And that is, and it's a document that states that there is a very important conversation that we need to have around violence in general. And so we look at violence through our national strategic action plan to eliminate gender-based violence in Jamaica. It's a 10-year plan. And the definition of violence is what guides our action. We take our definition from the UN Declaration on the Elimination of Violence. I'll just read it for you to show how broad-based it is. It defines gender-based violence as acts of physical, mental, or social abuse, and that includes sexual violence that is attempted or threatened with some type of force, and there is a little explanation. Types of force would look at violence, threat, coercion, manipulation, deception, cultural expectations, weapons, or economic circumstances, and is directed against a person because of his or her gender roles and expectations in a society or culture. And so if you look at how it is defined, it is very broad. And in some cultures, it is used interchangeably with the term violence against women. We've also added girls. So you might have heard the term VOG, and that speaks of violence against women and girls. Now, we believe gender-based violence is a serious problem in Jamaica. And as you rightly pointed out, it is also a violation of the fundamental human rights of persons, especially when the other party who is inflicting the danger, the damage, the injury, or the hurt, has in his or her mind this position that there is a superiority complex. So I am superior to you, and so I can do what I want to you, like putting my foot on your neck or on your face or some parts of your body. We believe this is a big issue, and that is why the legislation that we look at, the most recent, would be amending the Domestic Violence Act to shore up the protection around women. While the case that we are speaking to is not considered as something that we would look at under the Domestic Violence Act, it would be under the Sexual Offences Act, which looks at, Offences Against the Persons Act. Offences Against the Persons Act, which look at an offence that is committed against a person, against the person's will. And it could be that there's a power dynamic. The person who is committing the offence has this power over the other party, whether perceived or real. Sometimes it's imagined, and it can happen and play out where the person feels that he or she has power of ownership, power of position, the position in society status. This person is beneath me in terms of socioeconomic status, and so I can inflict punishment on. I believe every person has to understand that each of us are born with the same rights, and our Constitution is clear that each person has the same rights, and nobody, no one, wherever you are on the socioeconomic scale, however you conceive your status to be, you have no right to violate any person and to take that right from them to speak, to express themselves. The Constitution is very clear. And so persons who violate people's rights ought to be punished and ought to be brought to book, because we all have that responsibility to respect each other, or personhood, or possessions, or properties. It's like a no-brainer to me. I can't understand how somebody believes that he or she has a right to inflict damage, danger, harm, injury onto this other person because they think it is right to do so. It is totally wrong. And that is why at the Bureau of Gender Affairs in this ministry, we are making sure that we stand with persons such as the Nurses Association and the other groups that are speaking out against violence, because we will not rest until we have a recognition from all persons that all persons have rights, and those rights are sovereign and sacred and ought not to be trampled upon or denied.
That is Sharon Robinson. She's the Principal Director of Gender Affairs at the Ministry of Culture and Gender. We also were joined by the President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Dawn Marie Richards. We thank you both ladies for joining us, and all the best.
Thank you for having us.
Not a problem. The headlines are next.
Cover Story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
6 o'clock.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening. With the headlines at 6, I'm Nora Gay Banton. The Holness Administration will review the law governing access to the country's sex offenders registry. That's the word from Gender Minister Olivia Babsy Grange. Minister Grange made the announcement on Monday as she joined scores of Jamaicans who took to the streets of the corporate area protesting violence against women and girls.
We're going to look into the act that governs the sex offenders. I remember when we were debating in Parliament about the legislation, there were those advocates who said that we must protect the rights of the offenders, although they are offenders. And therefore the registry was not made public, but the information can be accessed. But the ordinary woman and the little girl and the families do not understand the bureaucracy. They do not understand how to access these things. And so we have to make the information more available.
Scores of nurses, other medical professionals, advocacy groups, and university students turned out on Monday to join the protest. The protesters first gathered at the University Hospital of the West Indies, UHWI, where a nurse who was recently brutally assaulted is employed. The groups then met up on East Street in the vicinity of Hero Circle, where they marched and chanted for justice.
We want justice! We want justice! We want justice!
Minister Grange called for an end to violence against women and girls. Meanwhile, colleagues of the nurse who was attacked say they are standing in the gap for her.
She is my colleague, personally. I have spoken to her, but I can't say just because the nurse is not well. She's not well. Right. And you can imagine if after going through an ordeal like that, you would not be okay either. right? So she's not okay. So we are not okay. And because she's not able to represent for herself out here today, we as a uniform body standing strong to let her know that, nurse, we have your back and we are supporting you, baby. And we're against the cause.
They say violence against women and children is unacceptable.
Important to be a part of this protest because as nurses, a nurse doesn't go as a singular. It's a plural, it's a body, right? What affects one affects all of us. And the fact that a nurse could be brutally attacked like that on her way to work, it affects us. When we got word, everybody was broken at the hospital because when we're out here coming to the hospital to give us care, you could see us and think that it was okay in our uniform to attack her like that. No, we don't stand for that, and we stand in solidarity to say we are against abuse amongst children, females, and overall abuse. It is not acceptable. We are not accepting it. So today when we march and we put our voices together and we stand violence against women and children, it's a no.
And Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says he is in close dialogue with the family of the nurse who was attacked.
I have been following the case, starting with a discussion with her husband shortly after the incident took place. Had a long talk with him and reassured him, having had discussions with the clinical team at the UHWI, that Nurse Facey, who was a worker at the UHWI, would get the best possible care, and she has been. It's a very traumatic experience. She not only needs clinical support, but she needs psychological support, and that is ongoing. So I'm in touch with the family through her husband.
Meanwhile, opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes, says violence against women in 2025 is intolerable.
It is with disbelief that we have to make this speech in 2025. It cannot, however, match the disbelief when I saw the video of the brutal attack on Nurse Facey. I still cannot believe that in 2025, we have to stand here protesting against violence against women. We are supposed to be a civilized society. A civilized society is one that looks out for its most vulnerable. And it is unfortunate that our women today are still subjected to violence of this sort of nature.
Dr. Alfred Dawes, opposition spokesperson on health. Murders are now down by 42%. The latest crime data from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, says up to May 17 this year, 257 homicides had been committed. That's 182 fewer than the 439 murders recorded in the corresponding period last year. St. Andrew South continues to be a hotspot, leading the country's murder tally with 35. St. Catharines South is second with 42 murders. Two divisions have seen an increase in homicides. They are St. Mary and Portland. Meanwhile, shootings have declined by 32%, coming in at 281 up to May 17. And the trial of murder-accused Constable Noel Maitland was postponed on Monday in the Supreme Court following the absence of a juror. When the matter was called up, the court was informed that a member of the jury was ill. The proceedings were adjourned and are expected to resume on Tuesday morning at 10. Maitland is on trial for the 2022 murder of his girlfriend, 24-year-old Donnelly Donaldson. She was last seen at his apartment on July 12 that year. Her body was never found, but police believe she was killed that same night. Maitland is also charged with preventing the lawful burial of a corpse. On Monday, defense attorney Christopher Townsend was set to begin cross-examination of the Crown's second witness, a close friend of Donnelly Donaldson. The first witness to the stand was Donaldson's mother, Sophia Lugg. The Crown has a list of over 30 witnesses to call to make its case. The trial is expected to last for 6 to 8 weeks. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay. Banton Sports is next.
Don't fall victim to deepfakes.
Watch out.
Protect yourself.
How are this
For
on
more
my TV?
information, visit broadcastingcommission.org or
Here,
scan
baby.
the QR code on screen.
Deepfake.
No deepfake can't catch me.
Junior, you know say AI can make something will look and sound just like you? One day Junior get a voice note from her granny. Say the food done, the medication done, and she need money urgently.
Need money urgently? But Miss Pat no like ask people for things.
And as so comes, Judy get suspicious.
So what she do?
She asks the neighbor to go check pan her. Junior, the lady quite alright over there make her Sunday dinner.
So the voice note a deep fake?
Yes, my love. Come, your food ready.
Right now it look like we have to outsmart the AI. But wait, I really want dege dumpling here, give me.
Me I wonder if AI can make one deep fake dumpling for you.
To learn more about deepfakes, visit www.broadcastingcommission.org.
You're a VIP with CIBC Caribbean. Spend US $100 or local equivalent with your CIBC Visa credit card for your chance to win a crop over VIP experience in Barbados. An all-expense paid trip for two, staying at the Courtyard by Marriott Hotel, cultural tours, and Aura experience with full glam makeup, plus tickets to the hottest last lap events. Visit CIBC Caribbean /crop over 2025 for more info. Conditions apply.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Jamaica's Javel Glenn, Makino Mindley, and O'Shane Thomas have been named to the West Indies A squad for 3 50-over games against South Africa A in St. Lucia, May 21 to 27. The teams will also meet in 2 test matches from June 1 to 11. Alec Athanaze will lead the 50-over squad, while for the 2 test matches, Tevin Imlach will captain one of the games and Jomel work on the other in an effort to give both valuable leadership experience. The other members of the squad are Kadeen Alain, Kevlin Anderson, Jediah Blades, Daryl Cyrus, Jide Gooley, Shakir Paris, Carrie Pear, Kemal Savary, Gilson Tyson, and Kevin Wickham. Andre Coley has been appointed head coach for the series. The selected players have delivered strong performances across regional formats and will now have the chance to test their skills against much tougher opposition. The West Indies A versus South Africa A series also builds anticipation for the exciting Fuller Energy West Indies home series, which begins on June 11 at the 3Ws Oval in Barbados, where the West Indies women will take on South Africa. That game will serve as a curtain raiser to a thrilling summer of international cricket across the region. West Indies women registered a dominant 80-run win over England and the Wales Development 11 at the Spitfire ground in Canterbury on Sunday in a warm-up ahead of the start of their 6-match white ball tour of England. Kiana Joseph blasted a boundary-studded half-century, hitting 10 fours and 2 sixes in her knock of 62 from 35 balls, as the Caribbean women posted 175 for 4 in their 20 overs. Captain Hayley Matthews and Alia Elaine chipped in with 20 apiece, while Janella Glasgow finished unbeaten on 18 of just 6 balls against Phoebe Brett, 2 for 35. The Development 11 were then restricted to 95 for 7. They lost 6 wickets for 25 runs at one stage. Charlotte Stubbs made 35, the most runs, and Karimish Rahmarak 2 for 11, and Afi Fletcher 2 for 18. The West Indies will face England on Wednesday in the first of their 3-match T20 international series. The Jamaica Football Federation named a 21-member senior women's football squad for the international friendly game against the USA on June 3 as part of their preparation for the World Cup qualifiers. The Weka girls suffered a 3-0 loss to France, then were beaten 4-0 and 3-0 by Mexico all in the month of April. Coach Hubert Busby says while the trend may be worrying, they're making progress ahead of the World Cup qualifiers.
When we looked at a couple of things and some different players into different positions, and we had conversations about players and looking to try things, which is what these games are about. We have our strengths, we have our deficiencies, but we have to be able to utilize these games. I know everyone wants to win every single match. That's what we're here for, the senior women's national team. But really, these games are for us to be able to experiment and try things. We can't do them in World Cup qualifiers, right? So we have to be able to have this full picture of what it is. There's all these little puzzle pieces that we have to be able to, little jigsaw pieces that we have to be able to put together that allows for us to see this finished product.
Star player Khadija Shoaib and a few other senior players will miss the game against the U.S., but Busby says this gives other players the opportunity to show the coaching staff they deserve a permanent spot in the squad.
With them not being there, it provides an opportunity for other players to definitely step up and show what they can do. And the best part about it really is that there's bad stresses and there's good stresses, and this is one where we're going to actually put them in an environment to see how they cope, with those trials and tribulations of playing the best team in the world. But the good thing is, as I've said all along, come the end of this year, we shouldn't fear anybody because we've truly run the gauntlet. We've probably had the hardest fixtures of any women's team in our region this year. Although it hasn't always gone our way, we're able to take those things out. And we've been able to get some results with Bunny in and some results without the likes of Bunny and some of the veteran players. So again, it's just an opportunity for a lot of these players to step up and claim a spot.
That's Hubert Busby. Striker Ramoy Davis scored a double to give York a 2-0 win over champion Seaforth in Zone A of the Surge St. Thomas Major League at the weekend. Davis scored in the 28th and 90th minutes. In another game in the zone, Bath clipped Prospect 1-0 with Javane Whitaker scoring in the 84th minute. In Zone B, Elite SDC secured their first point, defeating Hearties by 2-1 with goals from Javon Cargill in the 31st and Peter John Williams in the 90th. Davian Dacre scored for Hearties in the 76th minute. In another game in the zone, White Horses blanked Danvers Pen by 2-0 with strikes coming from Kenmore Roberts in the 23rd minute and Dante Constable in minute 90. Brighton and Hove Albion consolidated their place in the top 10 of the English Premier League after coming from behind at home to beat champions-elect Liverpool 3-2 on Monday. Liverpool jumped into a 2-1 half-time lead with goals from Harvey Elliott and Dominic Slobosai, but Brighton stormed back with goals from Koro Mitoma and Jack Hinshelwood.
Cushion ball into Conor Bradley, who's got through Adingra, and Bradley can pull it back, and Harvey Elliott puts Liverpool in front. Gruder beautifully over the top of the Liverpool defence and into the net from Yasin Ayari. It's a lovely goal. Touch from Soboslai for Elliott, back to the Hungarian. Whoa, what a finish that is! Dominic Soboslai puts Liverpool back in front. Danny Welbeck, Alisson there again, Mitoma, 2-2. O'Reilly, fist across and in.
Brighton now have 58 points with one game to go in the season, and it ensured that they'll finish in the top 10.
This is Nationwide's Champions League Facts.
Did you know that the UEFA Champions League was originally called the European Cup? Yes, that's a fact. The competition was first introduced as the European Cup in the 1955-56 campaign, bringing together the best of the best to compete for the symbol of European football supremacy. The competition was relaunched as the UEFA Champions League for the 1992-93 season.
That was Nationwide's Champions League Fact.
Brought to you by AnyBet, your best bet.
And the ATL group is also on board, as well as the Amber group. And another fact is that Nationwide 90 FM will carry live coverage of the Champions League, the European Champions League, on Saturday, May 31. We'll be doing our broadcast from the Carib 5, which will also have a live streaming of the game, so you can watch the game in a theatre atmosphere down at Carib 5. We'll be telling you a lot more about our plans as we go forward to that big day on May 31, when Internazionale of Milan in Italy takes on the French champion Paris Saint-Germain. Emma Raducanu produced an encouraging display to reach the second round in Strasbourg as she continued to build momentum before the French Open. The British number 2, who accepted a late wild card for the tournament, was in fine form in a 6-1, 6-3 win over the world number 17 Daria Kasatkina. World's number 43 Raducanu had not won a set in 3 previous meetings with Kalasati, but the inconsistent Australian failed to win a single service game. Raducanu will now face the American Danielle Collins in the last 16 as she continues her build-up to the French Open, which begins on Sunday. Arthur Ashe Stadium, the U.S. Open Showcase Court, is set to be expanded as part of an $800 million renovation project at Flushing Meadows. The United States Tennis Association has announced. The USTA has described the proposed work at the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center as, quote, the largest single investment in U.S. Open history. It includes a plan to increase by around 2,000 the capacity of Arthur Ashe Stadium, which currently holds 23,771 and is the largest tennis arena in the world. The stadium is set to get a new main entrance with facilities inside for fans to be modernized. Further plans include a new player performance center at Flushing Meadows with expanded indoor and outdoor warm-up areas for the players. And that will do it for sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:18.
Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited are authorized distributors of international brands ABB, Omron, STC, Festo, and Thomas & Betts. They supply programmable logic controllers, photoelectric and proximity sensors, contactors and soft starters, power supplies, variable frequency drives, and much more. Visit them at 24 Dunrobin Avenue, Kingston, or shop 32 Overton Plaza, 46 Union Street, Montego Bay, or visit their website cleasling.net. Cleasing Industrial Supplies for all your industrial automation and control solutions.
The Excelsior Community College 5K Run Walk is set to take place on Saturday, May 24, 2025 at 7 a.m. starting at the main campus, 137 Mountain View Avenue. This event is part of our 50th anniversary legacy project, and proceeds are in aid of providing financial assistance for students in need. Run with purpose, walk for change. Every step you take helps pave the way for a student's future. Register now by visiting our website www.ecc.edu.jm. Excelsior Community College, 50 years strong and still moving forward.
A mother's journey of love shared from generation to generation. Give her the ultimate relaxation and escape to Adam and Eve Day Spa and Salon for a month.
Tune in to Cliff Hughes Online from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast from the Ministry of Agriculture's Investment Forum, Thursday, May 29th, 2025, at the Jamaica Conference Center. The Investment Forum is one of the many events during National Minerals Week 2025. The Investment Forum, with keynote speaker Honorable Floyd Green, focuses on investment incentives and sustainability. We will broadcast live from the event, giving listeners island-wide front row access to Jamaica's mineral future. Don't miss us as we unearth the possibilities. So tune in to Cliff Hughes Online, Thursday, May 29th. It's the Ministry of Agriculture's Investment Forum at the Jamaica Conference Center. Catch the live stream on our YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live too. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. I'm Robian Williams. A special good evening to our YouTubers over there, the YouTubers who are on our YouTube platform. Thank you so much for tuning in. We invite you to weigh in live in the comments section on today's Public Opinion. And today, we're focusing on an issue that continues to grip our nation: violence against women and children. As incidents we see, stories making headlines there all too often, we ask the critical question: do you feel safe as a woman in Jamaica? So the question we're asking: do you feel safe as a woman in Jamaica? To our YouTubers, feel free, as I said before, to comment in the comment section on our platform. So I'll go to the comments. We have several on Facebook. I'll start with Kav saying, the one thing we shouldn't fear, it we fear most, women no safe no way. D. Neal is saying there used to be some thought about, okay, so I'm not getting that information clearly. Let me see. Raymond is saying, when you said stop violence against women, remember a woman said them want, wow. Can't read that one either. Inappropriate. Winston is saying, very good question, but you should direct the question to Mikkel. All right. Okay. Let me see if I can get a few more. Eunice Anderson says, yes, depends on the area. Karine McKenzie is saying, yes, in some ways. Let me see if I can get in a few more. Jermaine Donovan says there are far more men being murdered and shot each year than women. And he's saying, let's stop with the gender divide. The women feel so safe that they're usually the ones who go out to demonstrate on behalf of the criminals. I see we have some very interesting comments here, and I'll read them. Yeah. Women and children are not safe. Sad all over the world. And she's saying it's all over the world, says Rosalind Buck. Melissa Rose is saying, as someone from East Portland, I'd like to think it's a little bit safer there, but overall, there are places in Jamaica I'd be afraid to go. Now, my biggest plea to the government is to make our most vulnerable or university students, they need to be protected. My heart still breaks for Jasmine Dean and now another student. That's too much. Or civil servants that keep us safe and protect them must be taken care of also with love. Let me see. Katie Ann Blair, the criminals are barely shown by the police. The criminals and missing people should be shown everywhere, like on billboards and big screen public televisions, KFC, banks, hospitals, etc., to keep the public aware and safe, and it would be better. And it would deter, rather, future criminals for fear of public embarrassment. Nicola Nicholson says, yes, she feels safe. Let's see. Christine is saying, no. Most men do not like women. Men abuse women as they know society will find a way to blame the women. They commit so many crimes against us, then get even a female lawyer to defend them in court in front of a female judge who will most times just give them a slap on the wrist. She went on to say, men know they can get away with abusing, so I do not feel safe at all. Wow. Shines for Life Law is saying, no one is safe nowhere, Jamaica or otherwise, but too much bad mind people in Jamaica and too much uneducated boys joining gangs. The question, do you feel safe as a woman in Jamaica? This is in response to, we've seen several reports concerning violence against women and children. We're asking the women, do you feel safe? Yeah? We'll turn our attention to Instagram. Musing Meng is saying, no, I don't. From vagrants in KFC, drive-through and windshield wipers at stoplights to our intimate partners who truly hates us, we are under siege. Wow. Murdoch is saying, no, and I'm also scared for my daughter. May God cover us every day. Diane McCauley saying, no, never have, and I'm not young. Yeah? Audit Travel is saying, no, and I worry for my sisters, cousins, mothers, my mother and aunts. Colleen is saying, nope. I'm seeing no from Wendy, not safe. Bell Camp is saying, absolutely not. I am terrified because men no longer like women, it seems. I'm terrified of going out alone, driving alone, walking alone. I have never felt safe. Itzman is saying, no, and I'm scared for my daughter and nieces. Neva is saying, I somewhat feel safe, but I'm always cautious. I understand that danger doesn't come with a specific face. Could be a man or a woman, so I stay alert whenever I'm outside. Yeah? And Desreen is of the view that men don't love women. Men no longer love women. Yeah? Most women will say no, says Shawnee. Sad truth. Try asking men the same question. You will get the same response. To each his own. And I know some may say to strike a balance. I saw that comment some time ago in our YouTube chat. And let me go on over to our YouTube platform. Marigold Weber says, yes, 100%. She feels safe, 100%. Let me see if I can get in a few more. Gertrude Hubbard is saying, no, sir. I think it was peaceful. Peacefully. Oh, I don't know if that's in relation to the question. All right. So the Sharon Forbes says no. Nitrogen. All right, so these are unrelated. Unrelated. Tyrell Thompson says, only woman this question goes for. Well, you have mothers, you know. Men, you have mothers. You do have mothers, you have aunts, you have sisters. Do you feel as though they feel safe? Do they send their live location to you? Do they take pictures of where they are, what they're doing? Yeah? Let me see if I can get in a few more. Nadine Dockery is saying, I don't know why men hate women, but women need to learn self-defense. Papa is saying, most time a big man with money who do them thing, cause them no know them can get way. Easy Guy is saying, not all women feel safe dependent on where they live. Yeah? Let me see. King Lam is saying, the way una talk is as if my life as a man has no value. Men are painted as monsters. Barbara Ellington saying, I stopped feeling safe from December 24, 2014 when gunmen trailed me home, hit me in my head with gun and robbed me of jewelry, money and documents. And I continue to say that it is not a men versus women thing. That's not what this narrative is about. It is about the fact that women, children, the elderly are considered as most vulnerable among the society. And that's a distinction that has been made time on time over, right? So it's not as though we're saying the lives of men, we don't value the lives of men. I don't think that's the picture we're trying to paint. But to each his own, and everybody has their view, their opinion. Valmac is saying, I feel safe. However, I try to be aware of my surroundings most of the time. And my colleagues and I, we were having this conversation. We women, do we feel safe? Each time we take a taxi, each time we take a public transportation, each time we go anywhere, we send our live location. We send pictures of vehicles. We have to be looking, use the item, run away, head back, use the item. We just have to look left, right, and center. So it's not as though we're saying, oh, the lives of men are not valid. They're not valued. I don't think that's the conversation. Maureen McKenzie says, sometime I fear for my daughter, even my son, but I always ask the Lord to cover them. Gertrude is saying, not all men are kings, still have good ones, I think. Affectionate Forest Bridge is saying, any woman who say them not feel safe in Jamaica, a problem. My mother is always safe. Nitrogen is saying, mothers, if your son is displaying violent behavior, please get help before they become adults. Orinthia Campbell saying, crime is everywhere. Only God alone can help us. Yeah. Liliana saying, I feel safe. I'm not walking with fear. All right. Kirk is saying, in Jamaica, a significant gender disparity exists in homicide statistics, with the majority of both victims and perpetrators being male. Studies indicate that males constitute over 90%. Yeah, majority of both victims and perpetrators. Natalie saying, you see how oversensitive the men are telling on themselves today. Yeah, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah. Baby Toy says, only God we are safe with. Easy Guy is saying, location is only necessary if you're in public transportation. Otherwise, never expose your whereabouts. I mean, these are people you trust, you know. You would send your location to people who you trust, of course. Your mother, your father, you know. Danet Parchment saying, yes, I feel safe, got lost, drove miles from where I should have been, end up in a whole different parish and was redirected and guided by some men. And that's, King Lamb says that's true. But let me see if, oh God, I lost that one. Some messages came in and I lost that one. Tyrell is saying, I am a father of a 14-year-old boy and I too worry about him when he is out. Of course you're going to worry. You are going to worry. MJM is saying the men are behaving very clueless. Sonia Houghton, I pray for my children and grandchildren every day because I really don't know what is happening in the world. And we were having the conversation and somebody said to me, it's not as though there may be an increase in reporting, but not necessarily an increase in incidents of these nature. Because back then, maybe they usually happen. Yeah? Unfortunately, incidents of these nature happened back then, but it was the fact that they weren't being reported as much as they are now. It's the fact that social media, the camera phoned them and everything never did debate back then, and they are here now. Imagine if the incident involving the nurse and this man who is now charged. Imagine if there was not a video phone, somebody there with a camera phone to record it. We wouldn't have known. We wouldn't have known. Yeah? I have 3 sisters. We have to be careful of the influence of ultra-feminists, says King Lam. Isa Mario, men being a part of majority in general violence is not the same as gender-based violence when it's power dynamic and sexual crimes. Indeed. Sharon Bless says, Roby, the men them need to be on the woman's side. We carried them for 9 months. And so too, I believe that we are on the men's side. You know, we are just among the most vulnerable. Yeah? I don't think if a man I go pray for do something to a man, him I go think twice about it. Him I go think how him I go maneuver the man. But we the women, you know, are considered to be vulnerable. Who raising these male criminals, asking Coffee Jam? Yeah. A lot to be considered, a lot to take in. All we want to do is just be safe. Be safe as a man, be safe as a woman, going about our daily business. We all want to be safe. Yeah? And if you see something, say something, right? That's what we've been trying to put out. If you see something, say something. Don't wait so till it reach the stage, the worst, or past the worst. Then you say something. That's it for Public Opinion. The Business Report is up next.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:34. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Roby-Ann Williams. Investors might have hoped the turmoil that hit financial markets last month was over, but another bout of volatility in U.S. borrowing costs is a sign that worries continue to bubble. The interest rate on the U.S. government's long-term debt surpassed the 5% on Monday before retreating slightly. That was the highest level since October 2023. It came after Moody's downgraded the U.S. government's credit rating on Friday, citing the rising debt over the past decade. Congress is meanwhile advancing a tax and spending bill that would add trillions to U.S. government's $36 trillion in debt. In the currency markets at the close of trading today, it cost 159 Jamaican dollars and 70 cents to buy the US dollar, 211 Jamaican dollars and 74 cents to buy 1 British pound, and 113 Jamaican dollars and 34 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the Business Report. I'm Roby-Ann Williams.
NWC customers, you have spoken and we have listened. We are opening our commercial offices to facilitate debt amnesty transactions on Saturday, May 24 and Saturday, May 31. If you are a pensioner, past beneficiary or have a commercial account, you may qualify. So, don't miss this final opportunity. Residential customers, you may qualify as well. Visit nwcjamaica.com for further details. That's Saturday, May 24 and Saturday, May 31. The NWC commercial offices will be opened for your convenience, serving you in so many ways.
come out last. Guilty. With top performance. Guilty. Jackama. Reliable. Full stop. Not comma. We have the expertise for drilling and demolition. We have the power tools for plumbers and electrician. Pan select tools, 3 parts and 3 repairs. 3 parts, 3 repairs. 2 to 3 years. Hilton. Available at Delta Supply, 106 Hagley Park Road. Call us at 876-302-61114. Delta Supply. We service what we sell.
It's only 5 days. 5 days of drive-away deals with ultra-low prices on a new Mazda. Up to $2 million off or top-of-the-line Mazda. Enjoy the super comfortable CX-30 or CX-60. Step up to the new family 3-row Mazda CX-90. Level up to executive motors now and steer into incredible savings. Up to $2 million off. Don't miss out. 5 days only. Visit us now at 8 Moresco Road, Kingston, or call 92-MAZDA. Find us online at MazdaJA.com. Conditions apply.
Looking to rent a fully operational production studio? Then Nationwide 90 FM has got you covered. We have flexible options to meet your recording needs any day of the week. Monday to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays available upon request. Bookings must be made in advance. Call us today at 630-1210. Let us help you reach your production desires.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
It's Monday, get over your blues. Or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The E-Zone is here for you. With the Stinger Honeybee
and Curry Boyatings
from 3 to 5 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM.
We've got your entertainment news.
Then we want to hear your views. Why you said?
Jump in the mix.
Or the hot seat.
Don't miss our brain busters.
Or the crazy giveaways.
Let's talk fashion.
Send us your outfit of the day. Ooh, cutesy. Very demure.
Are you looking for love?
Come on one of our blind dates. Send your request to ezoneblindates@gmail.com. That's ezoneblindates@gmail.com.
And stay tuned for your confessions.
These are my confessions. Share them with us at ezoneconfessions@yahoo.com. I mean, is this planet Earth?
Is it?
I don't know. Let me check. Either way, it's got a buzz.
And a bugger thing.
Ow! Ow!
Good evening, listeners and viewers. It's 6:41 and it's time for the nation's business. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And I'm Ricardo Brooks.
Well, we're still on the topic of protection for women. Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice, Michael Jackson, is calling on the government to clarify whether women and girls can use pepper spray as a self-defense tool. This amid reports of violence against women and children in recent weeks.
I think it's important that the Jamaican Parliament clarifies whether or not females or any individual can carry pepper spray and mace for self-defense. Before, there was some incongruence between the Firearms Act and the Offences Weapon Act. I think following the review or the amendment of the Firearms Act, it would seem that this section is now removed. But I think it is important that the parliamentarians clarified so that there is no doubt among citizens that they are in fact authorized to carry mace and pepper spray for use of self-defense.
The Offensive Weapons Prohibition Act does not identify the use of pepper spray for personal protection as unlawful. However, the Firearms Act had made it unclear as to whether the item can be carried for protection. Ms. Jackson says the public needs to be made aware of the legalities of using pepper spray in self-defense. She's also calling on the wider society to report incidents of abuse against women and girls.
Looking at issues of rape, looking at issues of domestic violence, I think as a society, we also need some introspection. Far too many of us are willing to be a silent bystander. It's not my business. How many people report if they observe someone being violated? How many of us utilize the 211 when it comes to child abuse? We have work to do. We have to look within.
Mikel Jackson there, the Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice. Joining us now to discuss further is one of the founding members of WMW Jamaica, Judith Wedderburn. Good evening.
Good evening, Siobhan.
Good evening, Ms. Wedderburn, and it's Ricardo Brooks and Siobhan Campbell, yes.
Oh, it's Ricardo and Siobhan. Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Good evening.
So Ms. Wedderburn, this matter of pepper spray, as the explanation there given by Mikel Jackson, what is your understanding as to the law, as to how it stands now? Is pepper spray a lawful means of protection, or is it not?
Well, to be clear, I haven't heard the word pepper spray or mace come up in relation to women being able to use it for their self-defense. I do recall that there is confusion, though. It's not clear whether they can, and therefore will not be held for the unlawful use of a weapon, or they... Yes, I really think it is unclear. So I agree with JFJ that the parliamentarians need to ensure that they discuss it, they get input from other members of society who are similarly concerned, and make it very, very clear. Hopefully they will agree that women and girls are able to carry pepper spray and or mace to defend themselves.
And considering if it was found that women should be allowed to carry pepper spray and mace, do you believe that is enough in terms of dissuading individuals who wish to do them harm?
Well, how do we know what is enough ever? It depends on the situation you're in. It depends on the kind of quote-unquote attacker a woman or a girl child is facing. What I believe it will provide, though, that whether it is for 15, 10, 20 seconds, it neutralizes the dangers faced by women and girls and gives them an opportunity to escape, to make a phone call, or continue to use the pepper spray if they use it once. And I am told it can make the offender get dizzy or can't see. Those couple moments might just be sufficient for the girl or the woman who is under attack to get help. So I think it's a serious matter, and we should not. We should take it on and support the call for the parliamentarians to make it, amend the law if necessary, to make it lawful. Mm-hmm. If it's not clear, they must deal with it, and promptly, because as you can tell from the number of times women are being attacked, it would be very useful, I think, for women to be able to defend themselves in this way.
Yeah. Judith Wedderburn, you've been at this kind of advocacy now for years, championing the rights of women and girls and calling for an end to violence against women and girls. Have you seen improvements in the Jamaican landscape?
Sorry, after what you said, after violence?
Yes, I'm saying, have you seen any improvement over these many years?
Well, I don't have the figures at my fingertips, but I do believe that, at least judging from the reported cases, and I make the distinction, between a case reported on your news line or in the press.
Yes.
That does not mean that the case went to court and the person was found guilty. So I'm speaking about reported cases. I do feel that these kinds of attacks against women and girls are on the increase.
So that's
sorry?
No, I was saying, so that's an anecdotal analysis.
Yeah, because I think that I don't have those figures in front of me. But the police might tell us, should be able to tell us how often this happens.
Yeah.
And you know what we need to remember? That sometimes these cases, I personally have experiences where women are attacked. They don't end up in hospital. They mercifully survive. But they're deathly afraid of reporting it. So they don't. The fear of what may happen to their family if they did. So it is not unrelated to the general situation facing women in Jamaica and girls.
I've been trying to flesh out in my own mind. Since I was a boy growing up, I've heard these messages, and I'm wondering what's not connecting. Why do we continue to see incidents like these?
Why? Well, judging from the long experience, where WMW started initially was examining how advertisements long ago treated women's bodies. And if we think about it, a woman's body in the minds of some men, not all, I'm clarifying.
Yes.
A woman's body is just an object. You do anything you want with an object. So if you feel, yes, she's offended me as a man, I go and deal with her. So I deal with her as if she's an object. I can stamp on her, I can shoot her, I can hold her down because she's an object. That is part of the concern that many of us continue to have. Because if this person you're attacking was not an object, perhaps you could have found another way you and the person are resolving the issue.
But where do you believe that message stems from, Ms. Wedderburn? Because clearly that's not the message being taught in schools. And as Ricardo said, growing up, you see the messaging everywhere to suggest that women should be treated with decency, respect, and equality as should any other Jamaican citizen or any other human being. So where do you believe this message of objectifying women stems from?
So I noticed you use the word should, which means we should be, but we are not. We should be treated with respect. Now, I am not saying that every woman is treated badly or every man is guilty of doing such a thing. But I believe it is reported frequently enough for us not to be able to ignore it. Your station reports it because it's the news you have. The print media reports it. So where does it come from? It comes from a belief. A belief based on how the males in our societies have been socialized and socialized to feel that they're really in charge. And if you are in charge, you can do anything you want. Objectify a woman to make sure she understands that you are in charge. So don't give me no chance. And so I'm encouraging you to think about that if you don't ever feel or haven't observed any behavior of that, of hearing men talk about women like that. If you're on the street, you might hear it. Woman, go on, cross the street, get out of the way. It's a sad commentary on the state of affairs. I do not believe that all men are like this, but there are sufficient occurrences of women being treated in a certain way to say that they really don't have no feelings. So if you offend me, I go and do what I want.
But Ms. Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I would say, but if the messaging is there, as I said, the counter narrative is there, and it's reinforced through education, through social media, through advertisements.
So what message is reinforced through social media?
The message suggests that violence against women is not tolerable. The message suggests that women should be treated with decency and respect. What is missing? As Mr. Brooks said, what is missing in the analysis of why can we not get to the root of this problem and essentially eradicate it?
Okay. When you say social media, I'm sure you're aware that there is social media and then there is social media.
Yes.
There is social media that regularly carries images, sometimes accompanied by music, sometimes accompanied by lyrics that are distressingly anti-woman, how they treat women in their lyrics. And there is social media that doesn't do that. So one has to ask ourselves, social media creators that speak about women with respect and demonstrate that they do respect women, why do they do that and other social media commentators don't? Because, I mean, there's so many platforms. That is probably what we need to examine more closely because social media platforms are reaching many, many, many more women and men and children. And the more of the anti-woman, woman is an object behavior, young women and young men are exposed to. After a while, they begin to believe that's how it should be. I don't know if you've heard the expression, which is in some of the work that we have done, that when a girl child has been offended, raped, or sexually assaulted by a man, it could be somebody in her family, it could have been somebody from outside, and the girl goes to report it and complain to the mother. The mother says, "My child, go on. It's just a little sex. We did have to do it too." No, we know that has happened. That's not a joke. So it runs very deep in some parts of the socializing process that all of us, as women and men, are exposed to. What I agree with you is the schools themselves need to become more aware of that and be prepared to take on the subject as part of their education around sexuality and healthy sexual behavior and respect for each other in school. I mean, it really is multifaceted, and the attempts to correct it will have to take place in many different areas.
Yes. If I could take you back to you used the term anti-woman, that sections of the society, elements in the society are just anti-woman. And you, for example, spoke to the hostility women face sometimes, casually walking along on the streets, for example. Mm-hmm. And I wondered how much of that do you think is as a result of the fact that we are in many ways a brutish society without regard for gender, and how much of it you think is really just hostility to women specifically?
Okay, good question. Yes, so there are many spaces in when we just treat, the women and men just treat each other badly,
yes,
disrespectfully. So your question is, how much of that, when it happens to women, is because they're women?
Yes.
Well, my answer to that would be, when we work with or get a better understanding of the challenge of power, relations of power between women and men, there are parts of our society, even parts of the economy, where women are beginning to, women at a certain financial level in particular, are beginning to become financially independent. They are able to manage somehow, sometimes without the financial support of a man for their family and for the children. And because of how, I don't know if growing up you would have been exposed to the belief that in terms of the household in particular, the man is supposed to be in charge. The man is supposed to make the decisions. The man is supposed to have the power. So the gender relations of power in a household like that get disrupted when the woman, however she does it, she grin and bear it and go to school and she pass her exam and she gets a job and she's beginning to earn more than the man. So the relations of power have shifted from the man alone who was running things to him having to make an accommodation to say, oh, okay, so you worked hard, you got a better job, you can earn more than I am. Now, ideally what the response should be, okay, the fact that I as a woman am earning more than you are doesn't make you any less of a man to me. So there has to be a certain kind of response on both sides so they can sit down together and say, okay, if you are earning $10,000 more now, that's the man speaking, than I am, let us put it together and see how the two children that we have can benefit from pooling our resources so that the decision doesn't become you're taking away my power because you're earning more than me, and that leads to verbal abuse, physical abuse. We don't want to go down that street. And the children who may or may not be observing these conversations begin to learn. They're learning whatever they see happens in their household. So there's often intergenerational transmission of behavior and beliefs. So I'm saying all of this to say that it is quite complicated. I'm glad you asked that particular question because it forces us, or it encourages us to think about where the anti-woman thing is coming and to relate it to when there's a shift in the power relations between women and men.
Interesting dynamic you expressed there, Ms. Weatherall. Do you believe then that the society as a whole, as in the entire apparatus of our state, has essentially failed men in terms of teaching them how to adjust to the changing dynamic?
Well, who has failed who? One might also say that there are ways in which the society has failed women too, but in different ways. So it's the request of JFD for the legislators to discuss and clarify once and for all. Is a woman going to be at risk if she uses pepper spray or mace to defend herself? You know, that would be helpful to both women and men. So to say the society at large has failed men, I don't know. If you mean that if the society at large is a humongous set of different race and class and gender and social whatever. But nevertheless, if the society as whole, maybe the society has not prepared men, young boys as they're growing up, to say, okay, so at university there are now more female graduates than there are men. That, having graduated, many of these women go on to better jobs or earn more money. So in that sense, the relations of power are already shifting because that woman that is now earning more money is more independent. So maybe the society is not preparing men to understand how you build an honest, safe relationship with a woman that you care for now that she's earning more than you are. That's the kind of conversation I think we need to have with men, to prepare them for what is happening. Some of our young women are already doing. We certainly don't want to tell the young women, no, you can't earn more than the men because the men are going to be upset.
I asked the question that way, Ms. Wedham, because I think there's a comment in the YouTube that echoes the sentiment I was trying to put forward. And it says, I'm tired of these double standards discussions. Regardless of income, a man is always expected to be, quote, a man. What he has is ours. What she has is hers. Stop beating around the bush. And I think that's a very powerful sentiment that a lot of men face.
Powerful sentiment. Now, let me admit, maybe there are women that are very. It's not fair to generalize. That's it. You were generalizing when say that when it comes to the women, it's her money, but when it comes to his, it's their money. That is probably not. I think it's unaware why to generalize like that. What I'm talking about is an approach that would not allow us to get there. That would provide a space for the woman and man to sit down together and say, okay, so now I am not earning as much as we used to be. Let us talk about how we can make the best use of your resources plus mine for the family. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as for society, preparing men for this shift, society is a humongous system, like ecosystem of, many, many different kinds of women and men and institutions. And which school did you go to and what church do you go to? So, yeah, I would rather not require it of society at large and say, let's build out what the institutions and the relationships are in society, where together we can face each other honestly and say, okay, how can we do this better together? Because I would imagine that that's what most families want. They really would like a space where they can sit down together and talk about these things, the woman or the man feeling offended, you abuse me, and if you don't get your way, you're going to hit me down. You see, that's why, who knows that a woman in that situation wouldn't mind having pepper spray? But I am agreeing with JFA, we need clarification. I'm not recommending that women use pepper spray or mace. If there is any doubt at all that it is illegal.
Yeah.
Women will just have to find another way to diffuse the situation and protect themselves.
Judith Wedderburn, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
I hope I was helpful in
Absolutely.
helping us discuss further for our joint benefit.
Yes.
Many of these challenging issues facing us as women and men.
Thank you so much. Judith Wedderburn is a founding member of WMW Jamaica. I think they were once called Women's Media Watch, I think was the name. Yeah. 4 minutes after 7, we're going to go for a break. And when we come back, the government of Trinidad and Tobago is restricting the movement and expression, really, of Vybz Kartel in their country.
The Watchman. Exploring issues shaping our society, government, and business. Provocative, unconventional. Dr. Henley Morgan is The Watchman.
Good evening. The art of political speech making. Speech making is a dying art in Jamaica. Few and far between are those whose rhetoric keeps the audience riveted during delivery and at the end leaves listeners convinced and wanting more. Nowhere is this truer than with political speech making. Debates in Parliament are a prime example. Designed to induce sleep among listeners and to incite reflexive thumping of the desk by those on the respective speaker's side of the House, they are dismally boring and lacking in content, structure, and delivery. Out on the stump, such as in political campaigning, it gets worse. Audiences are fed on a diet of proverbial political red meat. made promises that can never be kept, and subjected to condescending mimicry as if they are children. In the current political high season, to compliment any political leader automatically draws charges from the other side that one is being politically biased. The risk notwithstanding, I have observed an admirable attempt by our Prime Minister to raise the level of political rhetoric by applying some simple guidelines for effective political speech-making. Although not as charismatic or oratorically gifted as our own late Prime Minister Michael Joshua Manley, the late President Nelson Mandela of South Africa, or President Barack Obama of the United States, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness, in his public speeches, is nevertheless displaying an eloquence and a spontaneity that sets him apart from other politicians. He has adopted the persona and style of a professor, lecturing his audiences without speaking down to them, in an attempt to impart a greater understanding of the intricacies and complexities of government, and to manage expectations by the public generally, and the electorate in particular. These skills were on full display at the recent ribbon-cutting exercise to officially open the Morant Bay Urban Center in St. Thomas. While this is a welcome departure from the norm, the Prime Minister must be careful not to violate two of the essential criteria in political speech-making: timing and place. In that regard, I share a post on social media attributed to Professor Damian King. I quote, "This morning I found myself at a JLP rally. I didn't go to a JLP rally. I accepted an invitation to attend a nationally significant event, the opening of the Morant Bay Urban Center. But the first two speakers started with what a great achievement this was for the JLP. So I left." End quote, attributed to Damian King. Had Dr. King remained for the entirety of the event or tuned in to the radio broadcast, he would have been further disappointed by Dr. Holness's lack of political decorum. The most effective and memorable political speeches are those that cleverly mask political motive and elevate the national interest above narrow personal or partisan political interest. Think on these things.
Produced by Agency for Inner City Renewal, AIR, and recorded in the Jamming Studio Trenchtown, a breath of fresh air bringing change to the inner city.
Multi-link, access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use Multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere, spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multi-link logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multi-link?
More savings, more choices. Get active with Active Home Center. The one-stop shop for everything for your home. We have more savings, more choices, unbelievable prices. Wide selection with the latest style. The kitchen, bathroom, right down to the tile. Buy the hottest items on spot, don't miss out. Best options under one roof, no doubt. More savings, more choices.
Visit us in store or online at www.activehomecenter.com.
We have more savings, more choices.
No, when I'm nice,
The environment takes center stage this Labor Day, Friday, May 23, under the theme, The Environment, Our Land, Our Duty, Our Future. Play your part in preserving our environment. Put some voluntary labor into Labor Day in your community, anywhere across Jamaica. Jamaica Nice. Protect with paradise.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining presents National Minerals Week from May 25 to 30, 2025 under the theme Minerals for National Development. Activities include a church service, bauxite land titling conference, technical conference on limestone, investor forum and a bauxite industry session. Notably, the technical conference and investor forum will be held on May 28 and 29 respectively at the Jamaica Conference Center. For more details, visit www.moa.gov.jm or follow at MOAFJM on IG.
It's 12 minutes after 7, and just before we go to Trinidad and Tobago with our guest from the Guardian, Trinidad Guardian, I've said it before, Siobhan, that I sometimes don't listen closely to the segment The Watchman, but I caught a bit of what he was saying just now. And his comments represent or reflect a sentiment I'm seeing online as well, which is quite bizarre. Because I keep asking myself, where in the world, and perhaps you can help me, because you're a well-read man, where in the world does a government, any government,
not sing its achievements?
Tell me where. And this idiocy that says that you ought not to suggest that the political party that is in power should get any praise. How is a government formed? What is the basic unit of a government? Where does it come from?
It's to satisfy the needs of the people. And as a result, they have to show...
And what is the vehicle? What is the vehicle through which that government is elected?
Exactly.
It's a political party. And it's a political party. And listeners, I'm sorry for getting... I'm tired. I am tired of the discourse in this country that is so disingenuous, dishonest, and it bothers me because I think it contributes to the dumbing down of our people. And I don't know why people who should know better do not appear to exercise that. Our government puts forward ideas. It puts forward a philosophy, an ideology of development, of economics, of security. Why do we think that once that government is elected, that party or party functionaries are elected to government, then they suddenly do not have the right to remind people that this is the ideology, the philosophy that drives this government? And where does that come from?
And the Prime Minister's speech at the opening of that Morant Bay Urban Centre, I did not find anything in it out of sorts, because I didn't see it as much of a political speech as him just saying that St. Thomas is getting the development it deserves. As to whether you want to say, well, because it is his administration delivering that development, him pointing that out on a platform for the people of St. Thomas, who has been literally called the forgotten parish for years, I don't see how that was out of sorts.
You know what I think it is? And I've said it before, you don't have to like Andrew Holness. In fact, you can hate him. But I think we have to, as a country, recognize and confront the fact that there are people in this country that badly wanted this man to fail at his job. And the fact that he's achieving things, whatever those things are, they must discredit it and discredit him. And if he's to ever say, I have delivered what I promise, suddenly we can't countenance that. Joe Biden reduced the cost of drugs. He had an entire rally, a political rally, to say, I promised you this, I delivered this, the legislation we passed has assisted when Donald Trump is signing an executive order. He did it in an arena.
I mean, I think I've said it before. Now, because of our
I'm gonna be. We have a guest. We have a guest
up.
waiting,
Let's
and
wrap
it bothers me, man. And we can do better as a country. You don't have to like him. You don't have to like the political party. You can fairly criticize the government, but dishonesty.
I think this problem stems from the efforts we have gone, the lengths we have gone to separate politics from almost every other aspect of Jamaican society because of our unfortunate history.
But here's my problem, Siobhan. I think we do it more to one party than the other. But
I can see that argument.
Let's go to Trinidad. Listeners, the Prime Minister of Trinidad, the Twin Island Republic, Kamla Persad Besessa, she says she's the one responsible for the Minister of Defence's decision to restrict Jamaican dancehall artist Vybz Kartel's interaction with school children and the media in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, Kartel is set to visit the Twin Island Republic on May 26, and that's in preparation for a concert there on May 31. However, the Defense Minister, Wayne Sturge, says the dancehall artist is barred from media interviews and other events.
According to an immigration order, Sturge has blocked Kartel from a morning radio interview, a midday TV appearance, and a local press drop-in. He also blocked a meet and greet, a visit to a school or youth center, a cultural lunch with community leaders, and an official meet and greet. Sturge says he was concerned Kartel's appearance could have a negative impact on the country's vulnerable youths. In a Facebook video on Friday, Kartel says he has no problem with his movements being restricted when he visits the country. He noted that his job is to come to perform for the people of Trinidad. And to discuss this further, we're being joined by a senior reporter at the Trinidad Guardian, Jensen Levend.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening, sir. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well, Jensen. I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. How are you?
I'm good. I was listening to the conversation. I was trying to figure out what did Andrew Holmes do.
Wait, that would take all night. Jensen. But let me ask you, what exactly is going on in Trinidad? Because I found it interesting that a government can bar somebody from doing a media interview. That's interesting.
Well,
how does that work exactly?
The rationale behind it is the same thing of he didn't want him to be interacting with the youth and having, having too much interactions with them. And he believed that the media interviews would have allowed or facilitated that avenue where, he could get his message to the youth and him having his reservations about Kartel and his past, his criminal history and whatnot. He didn't want any of that seeping out. That's why he canceled all the interviews. He also barred him from visiting, it was the Youth Training Center, Youth Training Rehabilitation Center, YTRC. It used to be YTC. And some other things. I think you mentioned also the luncheon with the community leaders. That for one he didn't want to allow. Now the order has not been finalized as yet. Just really on today, I messaged him to ask what's the latest with the order being finalized. The last we heard was a draft order is being made, or there was a draft order and it has to be, confirmed by, I'm not sure who exactly has to confirm it, but it has to be confirmed before it's issued. So we still, right now, it's tentative. I believe he is adamant that these things won't be allowed, but between when the story broke and now, there was some, he did get some feedback, so I think he's taking those things into consideration so that when he brings out the final order, I think everybody might be a bit, comfortable with it.
But what I'm trying to understand, Jensen, is so freedom of expression is one of the rights protected by the Trinidadian Constitution. So a private citizen in the country giving an interview to what I assume is private media, not state media, I'm trying to understand how a government prevents that.
Well, he intends to prevent it by curtailing his arrival, because the arrival was supposed to be the 26th. So he's saying if you don't come in on the 26th and you come in on the 27th or the 28th, then those things that you have on the itinerary of the radio interviews and the media blitz and all these things will obviously be removed. So to curtail his movements, he said, well, let's say don't come at that time. And that aspect of it is within the rights of the Minister of Defense to say, well, no, you can't come in on this day.
Oh, so it's controlling the itinerary.
Yeah.
I see. I see.
So it's not that Carter will be in the country and he's saying, well, no, don't do any media interviews.
That
I don't think he has the power to do. Even if he wanted to do that, he couldn't do that, especially in today's society, social media and whatnot. Carter could just go on a live and half the youth will be watching it, you know. So I think what the curtailing was to prevent him from entering on that specific date, to prevent those items that are on the itinerary from coming to pass.
I understand.
So if you come in a little later, all these things are automatically removed. And he's also stressing that if you come in and if you come in and you don't do some of these things or you do some of the things we ask you not to do, then you could be in breach of the Immigration Act and be deported or face a fine or whatever other issues that he can face.
What has been the reaction, though, on the ground to this news that Mr. Palmer's movements will be curtailed, so to speak?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm assuming you know Trinidadian culture. It may not be much different from Jamaican culture in terms of our respect and lack thereof for those in authority. So many of the comments had, a lot of bleeps in them with regards to the ground response rate. Most of the people were like, but Carter can already speak to the youth via his social media platforms. So you barring him from having those conversations and those interviews wouldn't make much sense. And I think he tried to explain himself a bit better during a post-cabinet media briefing last Thursday. Right? So what he tried or is trying to convey is that he does not want Cartel to be in the country having access to these impressionable minds. And the response on the ground is they already have access to him and access to what he has been saying since his release from prison. And they already have access to his messages before he was incarcerated, during his incarceration, and now post-incarceration. And you can tell the difference between what he was saying then, singing then, and saying and singing now. So you blocking or attempting to block those things really doesn't make much sense. So people were like, this is the best thing that the minister could think of doing. So much crime in the country, and this is what you want to focus on. So he received a lot of criticism for it. His back is broad. Because I spoke with him on that happened on Thursday, Friday. Yeah, I spoke with him on Friday, Saturday. I spoke with him just off the record chat, and let me just say off the record, unofficial chat about you've been receiving a lot of backlash for this. I was like, I could take it, man. I could handle it. I could handle it. So his back is broad. He hasn't faltered. He is still finalizing the final draft. I'm hoping I can get the exclusive on that so I can see, for sure what he's going to say. But I think when Carter put out that video saying that, hey, there's no love lost between myself and the country, there's no love lost between myself and the minister, I understand what the minister is saying. I think that helped a lot because there were people saying, well, Carter should cancel, he shouldn't come. He should boycott Trinidad and Tobago. Jamaica should boycott Trinidad and Tobago. No more Jamaican artists should come to Trinidad. And the response was not at all kind to Minister Sturge.
You said that there, obviously online, there's been pushback, and I wondered, outside of this decision, how has the new government been welcomed by the people of Trinidad?
There are those who gave them the opportunity. Now, historically, in the political arena, This is about the fourth time that the People's National Movement would have been in our 50-something years of independence. Fourth time that the PNM would have been out of governance. Right? Each time that they have been out of governance, they have never been out of governance for more than one term or one full term. Basil Pandey in 2000, 2001, somewhere thereabout, was the only political leader who housed the PNM for more than one term. But his second term lasted only 1 year. So he was 6 years out. Right? So I said that to say this. People are already anticipating that in the next 5 years, the present government will be in opposition.
Already?
They are already anticipating that in the next 5 years, the PNM will be back. And they have been looking at history. So I think the government has a mammoth task on its hand to convince not just their supporters and those on the fringes, but also to try and steal some of these supporters from the People's National Movement. Because what happened in the last general election was that a lot of people a lot of supporters for the People's National Movement stayed home. They boycotted, which led to the United National Congress winning. And that has been accepted by both sides. You know, the UNC look at it as an achievement in that you couldn't get your own people to come out and vote for you. We got our people to come out and vote for us, and probably a few others who were undecided. There were those who were unhappy with how the PNM was running the country. They believe more could have been done, better could have been done, should have been done, so they switched allegiances. Some people who were on that catchment because of how things are happening now in the last 2-3 weeks, they are disappointed already. You know, there were some campaign promises, not that they reneged on the campaign promises, but there were some issues being raised in terms of how are you going to get money to facilitate some of these things that you claim that you wanted to do. One of the things that comes to mind immediately is, well, this was only announced by the finance minister, and all credit to the prime minister, so it wasn't a campaign promise. But one of the campaign promises was we would take back or we would do away with property tax. So when the finance minister was sworn in, he said, sorry about that. When the finance minister came in, he said, all those who paid property tax in the past will get a refund. And then a week later, the prime minister said, nope, I never promised that. Finance minister, you need to go and address that. So those little things have created some little kinks in the armor. How well they ride that storm out, though, will determine whether or not they would make history by being the first political party to oust the PNM for 2 consecutive elections, or they will just continue along the path of all the others in the past who only got one and a little extra, a little lanyard.
So tell me, what exactly is top in terms of the agenda for the country? What is the bread and butter issues that TNT voters would look at the end of a term to assess as to we've seen some progress and we'd like you to stay on for a second term?
We are very selfish people. So we look at how am I benefiting? How will I benefit? How will me and mine benefit? And leading up to this general election, the last general election, the feeling on the ground was, I am not benefiting. I don't feel as though financially I'm any better. I don't feel as though, in terms of safety, public safety, as it pertains to crime, I don't feel safer. So those 2 things were the major issues, crime and the economy. Under the United National Congress, in the last 2 iterations, the first time under Basil Pandey in the late 1990s, and then under the Kamla Persad-Bissessar-led People's Partnership in 2010 to 2015, there was always a feeling on the ground of the man on the ground feeling a little ease in his pocket. So there was always that sense of when the UNC in power, the poor man has $1. When the PNM in power, the poor man doesn't have $1. And that narrative, I could use that word narrative, because there's no scientific fact that I can go to and point at and say, yes, the man on the ground did have more dollars when compared to the UNC versus the PNM. It's just the sentiment on the ground is when the UNC is in power, the man on the ground feels as though he has a bit more financial freedom. So leading up to the last general election, that was the mantra. And the slogan for the UNC was, when we win, we all win. So when the UNC wins, we all win. So everybody was on board with that, believing and hoping that they would be able to feel a little ease. The crime, to tackle crime, one of the things that legislation I was looking at was stand your ground policy and loosening up of the firearm users license so that more people might be able to have and own licensed firearms. Yeah. I think those two things are what really pushed them over the edge, over the PNM. What defeated the PNM was their internal, using colloquial term here, their internal bacchanal with regards to the Prime Minister stepping aside, handing over power to someone else, which is not the norm, and more or less handing over the reins of the political party, because historically the Prime Minister is the leader of the political party. So when you hand over to somebody else as the Prime Minister, you are telling the party itself that this person is the person that you should rally behind for leadership of the party, which was supposed to be next year. But because of the handover early on this year, that was brought forward to next month, in May, yes, in June, would be the internal PNM elections. So PNM shot themselves in the foot by having that little crazy handover for that short period of time, coupled with the discontent amongst those on the ground, lack of financial freedom and lack of public safety, or the sense of safety. So those things are what, in the last election, I can say for sure, is what tipped the edge in favor of
the UNC.
The United National Congress. Yeah.
Yeah. Final one from me, Jensen. Will you be going to the Cartel concert?
I thought about it. Before I wasn't planning on going. I have a good friend of mine who he was waiting since he was willing to go into prison and go to a Cartel concert. So he will be there for sure. So I would more than likely be there vicariously through him. Unless, of course, I'm sponsored a ticket, well then, yeah, I'll be front, center, backstage, upstage. But looking at those prices of those tickets, I have not received that financial freedom as yet.
You are a journalist after all.
Exactly, But he saved his money since Carter was freed. The first time that this man comes to Trinidad, I will be there. So, he was most excited. And he was one of the persons, when I first wrote the story, I had to message him and say, hey, look what's happening, boy. Carter might want to come back again. So he was most upset. And he knows the minister as well, because he follows court and crime. And the minister is a criminal defense attorney. So, so he knows who he is, and he has, friendly interactions with him outside of work. So he was a bit upset to know that one of his favorite lawyers would do one of his favorite, if not his favorite, artists, that craziness. But will I be there? Will I be sponsored? Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. Well, if you do get to go, let our producer know, and we'll definitely have you back for the review.
Oh, for sure.
Jensen Lavende is a reporter, journalist at Trinidad Guardian. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Not a problem at all, man. Anytime.
All right, have a good one. All right, so it'll be time for your calls now. 630-937-124, 618-8255. Come talk to us.
What makes a burrito bond so attractive?
We have a history of strong financial performance and growth, demonstrating resilience.
Our leverage remains low relative to our peers.
The bond is available in both Jamaican and US dollars, ranging from tenures between 2 to 10 years at attractive interest rates. Plus, it's expected to be listed, which will enhance liquidity for all investors.
Burrito bonds are burrito strong. Download our prospectus, call a burrito advisor, and invest today.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486-7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
More savings, more choices. Get active with Active Home Center. The one-stop shop for everything for your home. We have more savings, more choices, unbelievable prices. Wide selection with the latest style. The kitchen, bathroom, right down to the tile. Buy the hottest items on spot, don't miss out. Best options under one roof, no doubt. More savings, more choices.
Visit us in store or online at www.activehomecenter.com.
We have more savings, more choices.
You're a VIP with CIBC Caribbean. Spend US $100 or local equivalent with your CIBC Visa credit card for your chance to win a crop over VIP experience in Barbados. An all-expense-paid trip for two, staying at the Courtyard by Marriott Hotel, cultural tours, and Aura experience with full glam makeup, plus tickets to the hottest last lap events. Visit CIBC Caribbean /crop over 2025 for more info. Conditions apply.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10 or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
It must stop. It have to stop. Gang violence is not the solution to our problem. It will only cause pain and suffering. Let's find non-violent ways to solve our conflict. Let's work together to create a safer and peaceful Jamaica. Let's all live good.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. It is time for your calls. The numbers are 630-937-124 and 618-8255. Marlo, you're on the line. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Siobhan. Good evening, Ricardo.
Hey, Marlo.
You know, I'm raising an issue today, yeah? And it's based on the animal that attacked the nurse. Yeah? Based on this analogy that I'm going to use, it's the same. It pertains to what I'm going to talk about. You see, like in the financial sector, the Minister of Finance is very important in creating confidence in the system, so that people can invest. Without that confidence, a lot of people won't participate. And I think it's the same thing with the Justice Minister inside the justice system. It's the same thing with the DPP in the justice system. It's the same thing with the Chief Justice in the justice system. And the perception that uptown people get different treatment from certain people within the society is not going good for the democracy. And they have a responsibility and a duty to put put a blockage with this. Because when you listen to some of the things in social media, where people talking about if that was my family, and I know he's from uptown and the treatment, he's not going no prisoner or nothing, he's going to come off the case. And what the revenge I will take. It's the same thing that is happening within the mind of people where they lost trust in the justice system and want to take action into their own hands. It is up to our Minister of Justice, the Chief Justice, the DPP, because we can't leave where the police have done their investigation, gaining confidence within the system from the people, and then they brought cases and it takes 6 and 7 years before it go in front of a court for trial. Yeah? It's really sending a bad message to the wider society, and the perception is really not good for the democracy. What say you?
I don't want to really discuss this matter because I understand he has been charged, right? So, I mean, I will leave it up to the justice system to deal with the case as it is.
But look at it. I'm not speaking specifically.
On the broader point, you...
In the perception.
On the broader point that you make, I agree with you that where there's a loss of confidence in the justice system, that's a problem. That's a problem. So I agree with you on that general point. But Siobhan is right. That specific issue, we're not going to discuss it because obviously.
I will never touch a specific issue.
Yeah.
But the perception of an uptown, downtown thing,
yes,
it
I think that's a
needs
real
to be
perception.
addressed by the Chief Justice, the DPP, and the Justice Minister. This perception needs to remove, because when you find someone with steal some active, and they
But
get sentenced,
it's gonna be hard to remove that, Marla, because a part of access to justice, unfortunately, is that sometimes if you have a deep pocket, you can afford to get quality representation.
Because in society, like you would look at, say, for instance, in America, they would say, anybody is capable of going in front of the judge and getting sentenced and go to prison and all of these type of things.
Sure.
The perception in Jamaica is that someone stealing some arty will go to prison, and someone that steals millions of dollars will just walk the road free. We need to remove that. We had the perception that our police force was corrupt, and now that perception is being removed. So we as a people can remove it if the people that are in place to remove it.
I hear you, Marlo. Thanks for the call, my brother. Carl, good evening.
Evening, Siobhan. Evening, Ricardo.
Good evening.
Evening, Carl.
Christy gone home. Pot cover knock. Christy gone home.
Are you knocking pot covers, Carl?
Carl.
Pot cover knock.
Carl, you have a point, Dave. Carl, you have a point.
Well, like, I don't think I have any money. Greg Christie and Panther. I don't think I have no money. Like, when Miss Duncan did have. Send one of them come and I thought he's going to give me no money. Send one of them. Whether Panther and one come or Christie, but...
Were you knocking pot covers a while ago?
Exactly.
Yes, man. Then we're not glad to get rid of Greg Christie, man. That should have been gone from the evening. He was dishonest, tweeting about the Prime Minister is corrupt and I will get charged. That's the evening Christie should have go.
No, you don't need to. No, Mr. Christie's not dishonest. You don't need to do that.
But if you are, Ricardo, I understand you as a journalist. I understand. If you was tweeting something about somebody which you know said not go so, now dishonest that.
Well, I don't know that he did know that so there was a charge. So again, I'm just trying. The word dishonest, no, because that goes to character, and that yes, no.
All right. Anyhow, the urban center in St. Thomas, Morant Bay, is ripping through PMP. I heard it not too long. It is having an effect on the People's National Party can't talk about. Everywhere you go, it is discussed. And it is having an effect. And I heard you say something since night. You must remember now. You remember what Peter Philip did to Andrew Holness and in-house?
I remember the campaign, yes, 2016.
That he did even come to all his wife, and then he did all that about all his wife, brother. You remember all of them things that they come up, all of those things that they all go in a court, but I don't hear nothing about it. Anyhow, I mean, somebody else could have want to talk. Are you surprised about Friday? The ruling that the three judge give concerning the Constitution?
I am surprised.
No, well, Well, if you're surprised at me to say you're not a Jamaican, you're a British citizen.
I guarantee you I'm not a British citizen. No, I'm surprised, Carl, and I'm interested to see how the Court of Appeal deals with it.
Well,
but I am surprised. Here's why. I'm surprised because I do not think sufficient weight was given to the exigencies facing Jamaica.
So what I would like to ask one of those judge, what they would have like to see 40 somebody lie down in a gun in a Jamaica, 14 Montego, like what did I go on his trip one time. And when you listen about Montego, you could hear about his killing going on down there. And they want to hear about 40 a day before it becomes an emergency. It seems like that's what they did want.
Well, as I say, it's to be seen. It's to be seen how the Court of Appeal looks at it.
Ricardo, you did young. Maybe I like to ask one of these judges also, if when Michael Manley did declare the state of emergency, if he lock up the JLP them, what was the threat? Because the British citizen that went to jail, as soon as England he call and ask them what him is there for, them did have to let him out. It wasn't no more national security.
All right, Carl. Alric, good evening.
Good evening, Trevor. Good evening, Ricardo.
I think the pod covers might be a new thing. I don't think I've ever heard of it. Carl, is something else. I had nobody call a clan pod cover.
They don't talk about the appeal.
Huh?
They were the court. But Ricardo and Siobhan, me take on the Watchman a couple of weeks ago, and me have to take him on tonight. What is his agenda against this government?
I don't know if he has an agenda against the government. I don't know. I don't know. It don't.
Let me put it more diplomatic.
No, you don't have to put it more diplomatic. I'm just saying I don't know that he has an agenda against the government. I'm just saying the reasoning, it begs questions.
All right. Me now say my one agenda. We'll put it another way. When President Trump is going to sign anything, what does he say? Promise made, promise kept, and then him flashing pen, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, St. Thomas, where you say you don't live so far in life when Nora is there.
Nora is a proper guy.
Has been a forgotten parish in the eyes of most of the governments. And from what I'm hearing, when we are Jamaica now, the previous government have said them going to do good to St. Thomas. Both parties over there. It's only for money waste over there. Now this administrator has said, okay.
You know, it's funny, Alric. It's funny. Hold on, Alric. It's funny. Alric.
Yeah?
It's funny because as you're talking, we're looking at the screens in the studio, and you know what just came up?
No.
An image of Donald Trump signing an executive order in an arena. The BBC.
Promise me, promise kept.
I don't know. But it's odd because it's something I've seen that's just part of it. I've always seen that. I've always seen that when Obamacare passed, big conference, and everybody talked it up and how, this is a great thing and the Democrats have been trying to do this for decades. When Trump passed the tax cut in 2018, the whole of the Republican Congress was on the south lawn of the White House, and they were. I don't know why it's so unusual or surprising for people. Yeah, I don't get it. I honestly don't get it.
Well, look here. When what he said that Damian King left after the two speakers, that don't change the price of the improvement that was made over there by this government. So Damian King could have not worry about all that, because I don't know if this is an election year and the Prime Minister wants to get a third term, and he mustn't come out and say promises made, promises kept to the people of St. Thomas. I don't know if he just not say nothing.
I don't know.
My question to Mr. King, would you have been so troubled had the Prime Minister talked about something, for example, fiscal prudence, economic management, and how the government has gone about that? I wonder if you would have had the same adverse reaction.
Siobhan, before I go, the thing that got me about what was said is that the Watchman said that if Mr. King had stayed and heard the Prime Minister,
it would have gone worse than what was said before he left. Oh, you going to go down that line? Tell me a line I read.
But I happened to listen to the Prime Minister's
There was
presentation, and I
nothing
don't think it was overly political at all. In fact,
He spoke to the parish and it's
right. He spent most of the time talking about what St. Thomas needs, how he sees it happening, what are some of the projects to come. I don't understand, which is why it bothered me so much a while ago, because I don't think the criticism was fair. I didn't get the sense from him that it was a JLP rally. I didn't get that at all.
I don't big up Carl because him said the first thing. And I know you want the improvement for St. Thomas, Ricardo, don't it?
Yes, and every Jamaican should want that. That is what I don't understand. It's not a JLP thing, Alric. It's a Jamaican thing.
Sometimes these guys who think them have more sense more than the rest of us just make me wonder, boy. Have a good evening, guys.
All right. Michael, good evening.
Hi, sir. How are you this evening? Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I got up here at the mountain here listening to them, you know.
Go ahead, Michael. We're hearing you.
Yeah, well, also with St. Thomas, I like the development of St. Thomas, you know, because the man, the rebellion, he started, and from them time, they never get no good treatment, so me give thanks to it, man.
Yes.
Yeah, me not a PMT, need a JLP. Anyone to do anything good, well, me accept it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Michael. I agree with you.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
man.
a good thing.
Yeah, man. Because remember, sir, the man, the rebellion.
Yes. It's a very important parish, rich in history. It's a beautiful parish. It's not far from Kingston, so it's ripe for development. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And me have to continue to heal up the Bogle family for the type of war where they keep up in them time. Have to heal up the remainder of the Bogles there, you know. Yeah, man, I think what I want to check you about now, you know. Up in the Blue Mountain, they have a place for them called West Sierra, Davis Hill Rest House. You have a river there.
Yes, you need the bridge.
Yeah, where them say if you cross that, they have a two that you cross that bridge, you wash down into Yalas.
Into Yalas. Yeah, man, the bridge. Yeah, man, you tell me about the bridge every night, Michael. Not gonna forget the bridge.
Yeah, man.
Juliet Holness is your MP?
Eh?
Juliet Holness is your MP?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And the next thing, too, you know, the coffee business, you know. Where the man them up here with the grassroots man, them, the pharmacy coffee man, the man them kill out 80% of the coffee, you know, so you can lower payment, you know.
Michael, me don't know what else to tell you about the coffee. Me not, you know, like.
Yeah, me know, so you don't know.
No what else to tell you about the coffee.
Tell you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, them to do better with the coffee, even the young minister will come here now.
All right.
He look fit and strong to do the work, so all I have to do is make him have some money to spend, because what happened, you know, the two ministers before him, you know, one mash up the coffee business and one mash up the Mavis Bank, PC Bank, and the Maryland PC Bank when Mr. Siago and Percy Bradvick he set up and
all right.
up the coffee, you know.
Michael, me I go run leave you. Can you tell me the story every night? With the YouTuber, them even know the story now by heart. But we hear you, Michael, and I hope the coffee improves. All right, my brother? Oh my God!
Give him credit. He's
an
advocate for his profession.
It's
I give him credit.
It's admirable. Errol, you're the final caller.
Bless up, Ricardo.
What a go on?
Evening, Errol. How you doing?
Right now, we can't understand the chief judge, you know, come talk about constitution, right, you know. You understand? 1976, when Michael Mann did draw a state of emergency and sweep with the whole Jamaican Labour Party. You remember, Shepard? I never born it.
He never bought it. That was 12 years before he bought it.
1976, Michael Mann, the draft state of emergency. Yup, Sam. Bobsy Green. Bernal Charge. Peter Whitnam. Them down for JSP MP, you know. Where the man then take on time, but detain, you know, in a detention camp, you know, and sweep the election, you know. Why the judge them never say the constitution never write them time there?
Well, I mean, to be fair though, Errol, that was we had a different constitutional framework at the time.
It's the Charter of Human Rights.
We didn't have the Charter of Fundamental Rights that we do now. And it was easier at the time to call a state of emergency and extend a state of emergency. In fact, I think at the time, I don't think you needed the opposition support to do that.
And if I recall, that was one of the reasons for the Charter of Fundamental Human
Right.
Rights.
It was the experience the JLP had why Mr. Seaga was so keen on Jamaica having a Charter of Rights. We also shouldn't forget, that it was a Labour Party government that passed this Charter of Rights into law.
Okay.
It was Bruce Golding's administration, I believe.
Yeah, because Bruce Golding bringing all the things up,
We should ask him his view on how the Charter has been interpreted by the courts. Yeah.
Yeah, the Labour going bringing all of them things, and it's a feedback from them now. You get me?
I can imagine. I can see that being a thinking.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure there are people who.
Bruce Golding bringing Indicom. Bruce Golding bringing the one who talk about doing this and that. You see it?
But you have to remember in the era, a lot of those institutions and pieces of legislation was meant to strengthen governance. So it's it's a good thing on the whole. The question is how the judges have been interpreting the law. That is the question.
I tell them when I turn it back from where you understand?
Mm.
But I don't say it going on. The next man attack.
All right, Errol. We're out of time. Yeah, man. Aye. We should ask Mr. Golding.
I would very much like if he believes this was in essence, what the Charter of Fundamental Rights was meant to be interpreted as.
And there are a lot of people who say yes, that this is what it was supposed to do, to make, to crystallize and make rights ironclad.
And you realize in most, if not all, of the recent court rulings that have been adverse to the government, the Charter of Fundamental Rights is what is what figures in it.
I was talking to a colleague at the Gleaner, and he said to me, "Yeah, it's the pesky charter. That is the. But the democracy continues, All right, that's all the time we have. Dana Davey, thank you. How was the baked chicken today? You never give me none. The rice, it looked shelly though. How was it? It was good. Coconut, dinner, rice and peas. Sunday, Monday, I never give me none. Yeah. You have more left? Leg and thigh? No. Breast? Me not a breast. No, me not a breast. Me not a breast. Can I leg and thigh? Leg and thigh more. Me not a breast. Me not a breast. Wait, you have some tomorrow? Alright, it'll go over on Tuesday? Alright, done. It's done. I bring some tomorrow too. You burn up the rice. Alright. Dana Davey, thank you so much. Andrew Glenn Anderson, Bogues. Thank you. Our colleagues in the newsroom, led by our editor, Cara Powell, the very best of the business. Our callers, sponsors, listeners, all of y'all. We appreciate you so much. My name is Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Siobhan Campbell.
Good evening.
Who shops at Creative Building Finishes? You